A World Worth Protecting Chapter 1 I Want to Lose Weight. SS Chapter 1. I Want to Lose Weight. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. On a scorching summer day, east of the Federation, fog emanated through pond cloud rainforest like thin chiffon. Ancient towering trees interlocked each other, and birds would occasionally flit through the lush tree crowns, chirping as they flapped their wings and flew across the horizon. High in the sky, the sun, which had seemed capable of existing eternally, no longer appeared anything like how people remembered. Instead, it had been penetrated by an ancient greenish bronze sword, once indescribably massive, many years ago. Only a small portion of the sword's tip was exposed. The ancient sword had come from the cosmos and seemed to express its antiquity. There was a potent suppressive force that formed a halo, which enveloped the firmament as though it held the land in place, letting all life revere it. The sword sun in the rainforest looked picturesque from afar but was disturbed by a humming sound that came from a distance. A red-hot air balloon flew slowly toward the rainforest. The hot air balloon's hull was very large, capable of holding hundreds of people. In there, many young men and women in groups of 3 or 4 chatted happily. They were new students of Ethereal Tao College, one of the 4 great Tao colleges in the Federation. They hailed from Phoenix City and were on board Ethereal Tao College's cruiser, traversing thousands of kilometers, to seek higher education. Perhaps because they were all greatly anticipating their upcoming education, not to mention the unspoken attraction between men and women, the students had plenty of fun on the 5,000-kilometer voyage. Due to the long distance, the cruiser was equipped with dining halls, cultivation chambers, medical facilities, and many other amenities. There were quite a number of students in the cruiser's dining hall. Sitting at a table was a young fatty with his belly bulging out. He was about 17 years old, and he wore a blue baggy robe. His tiny rotund face could barely be considered to have intricate features. As he created smacking sounds while patting his belly, he gazed at the 8 empty plates in front of him, a little regretful. I'll have gained another 1.5 kilograms after this meal. Why didn't I bear with it? I can't die early if I want to become the Federation president. The fatty frowned with a grimace as he felt filled with regret, burping in the process. The young fatty's name was Wang Baolei. He was also one of the students who had recently been accepted into Ethereal Tao College. His lifelong dream was to become an official, or more precisely, become the Federation president. The reason he had such an ambitious dream was intricately tied to a childhood experience of his. In his memories, his father would frequently pat him on the head while speaking earnestly and sighing wistfully. Baolei, being an official is the best. Remember, although money can solve everything, you can still be bullied by others. If you do not want to be bullied, the only way is to be an official, becoming a person who lords over the rest. Wang Baolei did not understand his father's words until he entered elementary school. One fateful day, he failed to hand in his homework on time and ended up being berated by the class monitor. Despite giving the class monitor 2 sweets, his name was still jotted down, and the class monitor snitched on him. All of this left a permanent mark in his young heart. Hence, he wished to become the class monitor from that moment forth. It was not to bully others, but to ensure that he would not be bullied by others. But as he grew up, he realized that many people bullied the class monitors. Therefore, he felt that only by becoming the highest official, the Federation president, could he ensure that no one would dare bully him. The reason he had racked his brains to enter Ethereal Tao College was because all the Federation's high officials had graduated from the 4 great Tao colleges. However, he did not lead a blessed life. His family clan's bloodline was quite an oddity. He even remembered that night 1 year ago when his father, who could be described as a bag of bones, had shown him the family tree. It was the first time Wang Baolei had seen it. He realized that all his ancestors had died early, before the age of 35, if their body weight exceeded 100 kilograms. That night, Wang Baolei had a dream. He had reunited with his fat forefathers before he successfully became the Federation president. The matter of losing weight was elevated to something of great importance over the following year. The Spirit Inception era meant rich spirit chi and a renewed interest in ancient martial arts. Therefore, there were many weight loss techniques. However, Wang Baolei's weight remained stable, despite the new era. He even experienced a slight rise in weight even after he attempted all of them. As his memories surfaced, Wang Baolei gritted his teeth, steeling his resolve to begin losing weight the next day. Having made up his mind, Wang Baolei immediately felt relieved. As he picked his teeth, he hummed a tune while looking at the distant blue sky outside the windows. His mind became active again. I wonder if Physician Lu likes the gift I gave him. That is an antique I got from home. That old geezer will probably like it. Wang Baolei comforted himself and guessed that if he managed to win Physician Lu's favor, it would be equivalent to him having a tiny backer in the Dao College. Teachers have limits to their authority, but I still have to give them some gifts in the future. Being so old, Physician Lu definitely has quite a wide social circle. I have likely taken the right step. Upon thinking of this, Wang Baolei felt delighted. In his mind, he was one step closer to the position of the Federation President. In regard to becoming the Federation President, he was very confident. This confidence stemmed from his research of the autobiographies of high officials, which he had gathered from a young age. He had even figured out a few trump cards needed in order to become a high official. He was in a good mood as he looked at the blue skies outside the window, finding it especially beautiful. But then, his eyes suddenly widened. He noticed that a black cloud was gathering in the distant sky. It spread out, covering the sky as lightning bolts flashed within it. The cloud slowly approached, and it also gained the attention of many as they exclaimed, "It's an electromagnetic pulse." Wang Baolei was alarmed as well. After the spirit inception era was ushered in, the appearance of spirit chi caused many stunning phenomena to arise in the world. Flying crafts from the past could no longer ensure safe travel. It resulted in the production of hot air balloon cruisers propelled by spirit stones. Amid constant exclamations, a rumbling thunder suddenly boomed. The black electromagnetic clouds burgeoned in size rapidly as the lightning within began spreading outward. Like a black net, it illuminated the horizons in a dazzling manner, causing the hearts of the spectators to race. Even the cruiser slowed down. Just as people were feeling apprehensive, the door to the dining hall was pushed open. As though a cool wind had rushed in, a white-robed elder entered. His face was covered in wrinkles, but he had an ethereal air to him. His appearance exuded a feeling of propriety, especially his shimmering eyes, making him look like a person of righteousness. The moment he arrived, his domineering voice resounded throughout the dining hall. Everyone is to immediately report to the spirit cultivation chamber. Wear your magnetic spirit attire, for we will be entering the electromagnetic domain in less than 3 minutes. The moment he spoke, all the students in the dining hall hurriedly stood up reverently. Wang Baolei's eyes lit up. The elder in front of him was Physician Lu, the person he had previously gifted. From how he walked with flair, Wang Baolei was increasingly convinced that his investment from before was right. He thought to himself that the old man was likely someone extraordinary, and he had really made the right move. Just as he was reveling in his delight, the old physician swept his gaze across the room and saw Wang Baolei. With a snort, he walked over, took out half a black mask, and threw it at him. Don't waste your efforts on such inane acts when you are still so young. To think you have already learned the art of gifting before you've even entered the Dao College. I'm quite a learned person with experience. Keep the mask for yourself. The old physician's expression was solemn. He reprimanded Wang Baolei with an honest and upright demeanor, as though he expected better from him. Wang Baolei received the mask as his heart skipped a beat. He turned somewhat worried, as he could tell that the old physician was angry. Just as he was about to give an explanation, he suddenly recalled one of the trump cards he had learned from the high officials' autobiographies. One of them was that it was wise to thicken one's skin to admit one's mistakes in front of a superior. Typically, that would reduce a major issue to a minor one. Therefore, he took a deep breath and hurriedly took on a contrite and penitent look to admit his fault. Teacher, you are right, I was at fault. The old physician turned a little intrigued. He could not deliver his planned tirade when the student had admitted his mistake so readily. Wang Baolei heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the old physician's expression. He felt a little smug, thinking how useful the high officials' autobiographies were. The old physician snorted, raised his head, and scanned all the students in the dining hall. He raised his right hand and pointed at them. If you want to read more chapters, please visit freewebnovel.com to experience faster update speed. And all of you are future students of our Ethereal Tao College, but look at what you have been doing the past few days. You have to forever remember that, as warriors, we should first establish ourselves, watch our speech, and finally mind our conduct. The vice-abhorring physician's words resounded through the dining hall. Everyone who heard it could not help but lower their heads in shame. As for Wang Baolei, his eyes immediately lit up. He felt it was the appropriate moment for him to shine. He quickly took out a tiny notebook and began writing on it. From time to time, he would raise his head to look at the old physician with a diligent and attentive look on his face. At times, he would even nod seriously as though he was trying to remember every single word. Obviously, this was also from the teachings in the high officials' autobiographies. When his other classmates saw this, they looked at Wang Baolei as though they were looking at a man of God. The old physician momentarily fell into a daze when he saw this. An unprecedented sense of oddness arose in his heart. This was the first time he had encountered such an oddity after enrolling so many batches of students. He could not help but take a few looks at him before he slowly sneered. "Little fellow, it's not that easy to suck up to me. You ought to thank the electromagnetic pulse. If not for that, I would have reprimanded you for 3 days and 3 nights. I would be rather interested to see if you can write all of that in your tiny notebook." The moment he said those words, the mood immediately changed. The aura of an expert emanated from his body as it seemed to manifest as a suppressive force that blanketed the entire dining hall. Every student became alarmed. They all felt that the old physician clearly had the upper hand in the battle of wits. Wang Baolei blinked as he touched the recording jade slip in his pocket. After weighing the situation and noticing how they were approaching the electromagnetic pulse steadily, he gave up the thought of taking it out. He felt that backing down in front of a superior was nothing embarrassing. The old physician became delighted when he saw the expressions on everyone. He generously threw them a few more words of motivation. "Remember, put all your effort into cultivating. In the future, you must not be greedy or deceitful. Don't even think about finding girlfriends. I have to make it known to you that lust and danger are just 2 sides of the same coin. The way all of you have been acting for the past few days has been preposterous." Just as he said that, a sweet voice suddenly sounded from the old physician's voice transmission bangle. "Grandpa physician, where are you? Where did the magnetic spirit clothes go on? What should it cover? Quick, come and help me." The charming voice made the old physician tremble involuntarily. He barely forced a dry cough as he stared sternly at everyone. Only then did he turn around in a rush, and at the same time, he spoke excitedly into the voice transmission bangle. "Oh, I'm coming. Baby, don't fret. I'm coming to help you right now." The turn of events had simply happened too quickly, and the contrast was striking. Everyone was dumbfounded, and even Wang Baolei was taken aback. He drew a deep breath moments later. Following that, there was an uproar as Wang Baolei clenched his teeth and cursed. "Shameless. What that old pervert said was utter bullshit. There are only so many female schoolmates. There aren't enough for all of us, but he is actually trying to snatch resources from us at his age. Isn't it all because he's some kind of official?" Wang Baolei became more infuriated the more he thought about the matter. He joined in the conversations with the classmates around him. It only strengthened his determination to become an official. Another alarm sounded, ending everyone's conversations. All of them immediately rushed to the Spirit Cultivation Chamber. The Spirit Cultivation Chamber was located in the core region of the cruiser, and like its name, it was a place for students to cultivate. At the same time, it was the place where the most security was deployed whenever the cruiser crossed any special zones. As people gathered in the Spirit Cultivation Chamber, they were made to sit in rows under the direction of the Ethereal Tao College teachers. They were dressed in the magnetic spirit clothes that Ethereal Tao College had handed out. Wang Baolei was still dwelling on his anger toward Physician Lu even after he changed into the magnetic spirit clothes. He casually looked up and surveyed his surroundings. His depression immediately turned for the worse when he spotted a certain someone. He could not help but furrow his brows as he gave a look of disparagement. Sitting where his sight had landed was a girl with long, slender legs. She looked charming, but she had her brows knitted and a look of disgust, too. Clearly, they were very familiar with each other but also hated each other from the looks they were giving one another. What bad luck! Both of them grumbled inwardly as they looked away. It was as though just a glance of each other was a sore sight. I see that flat-chested Du Min everywhere I go. How irritating! Wang Baolei muttered under his breath. He had been classmates with the girl, Du Min, ever since he began schooling. She was usually proud and aloof, and she constantly made things difficult for him as her role as class monitor. She also happened to be the receiver of the 2 sweets he had given back then. What's so impressive about her? Isn't she just some lame class monitor? When we arrive at the Dao colleges, I'll use the teachings of the officials and get some kind of official role, snorted Wang Baolei. Soon, everyone had changed their clothing. The teachers in the ethereal Dao College cruiser checked everyone's attire and explained certain important matters. They also warned everyone that things could become dangerous once the cruiser entered the electromagnetic domain. The risk of death was not negligible. After everyone's expression changed, the teachers left solemnly. The door to the spirit cultivation chamber was sealed as the lights dimmed. Although there were murmurs in the spirit cultivation chamber, the nervousness people felt turned more intense over the passage of time. Gradually, no one spoke as the chamber fell into silence. It got so quiet that they could hear their own heartbeats. Even Wang Baolei, who still felt disgruntled, turned nervous. As the remaining minutes counted down, the entire cruiser suddenly shook, signifying its entry into the electromagnetic domain. Outside, the black electromagnetic clouds looked extremely grand. It resembled a huge mouth that seemed to devour the tiny hot air balloon cruiser. This phenomenon contained a destructive might that could sweep away everything. Perhaps only the stunning sword sun above the heavens could ignore such destruction, as though it could weather the turmoil and anything else thrown at it for millennia to come. This year was the 37th year of the Spirit Inception era. In AD 3029, Earth's technology progressed rapidly, and the world was united with no national borders. It entered a Federation era, and it was during this period that the massive sword flew from the cosmos and penetrated the sun, sending shockwaves across the world. The hilt of the sword might have been damaged from the beginning, but the powerful impact shattered it into numerous fragments, which scattered across space, with portions of it landing all over the Earth. Accompanying the arrival of the greenish bronze sword and the falling of the fragments, the Earth suddenly had a perpetual new source of energy that permeated everywhere. It was later named Spirit Qi. Spirit Qi was like air. Some places were denser and others thinner. The Federation and other factions obtained the scattered fragments, and through them, found the relevant information needed for cultivation training and cultivation artifacts, pill refinement, and spirit stone refinement. The text on the fragments looked ancient, which made people's interest in ancient texts become mainstream. The appearance of Spirit Qi quickly eliminated the need for all existing resources. It changed the lives of people and formed the Spirit Internet. It also changed the progress of Earth's civilization. It initiated a cultivation civilization all over Earth. From then on, ancient martial arts became popular as a revolutionary change happened throughout the world. Thus, the era of immortal cultivation began. History called it the Spirit Inception era. In the black electromagnetic cloud, the red-hot air balloon cruiser slowly proceeded forward. Lightning flashed continuously as bolt after bolt struck the cruiser incessantly. Thankfully, there was a soft halo surrounding the cruiser, allowing it to fly stably. As for the spirit cultivation chamber in the cruiser's core, all the students, including Wang Baolei, were in there. They had unknowingly fallen asleep as though there was a strange power that pulled them into a dream. At the cruiser's helm were 8 teachers. Some of them were drinking tea while others were smiling. They were having light-hearted conversations, looking completely different from when they frightened their students. Their leader was an elder with a face covered in wrinkles. He held a smoke pipe as he sucked on it. If Wang Baolei was here, he would definitely have recognized him as the shameless physician Lu. The old physician smiled faintly when a middle-aged teacher asked, "Chancellor, everything is in order. Shall we begin the trial for this student cohort?" "Begin," A World Worth Protecting Chapter 2 Wang Baolei, What Did You Do? AA Chapter 2. Wang Baolei, What Did You Do? Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. The bright moon illuminated the nearly starless evening sky. It was still the same pond cloud rainforest, but there was an additional chilly air to the night. Occasionally, one would see rivers formed from the accumulation of rainwater, which appeared charming under the moonlight. However, the cries of beasts or birds easily left one feeling uneasy. In a corner of the pond cloud rainforest beside a river, there were two girls who looked a little wretched, but still innocent. One of them was tall, and the other looked adorable, each possessing a unique charm. The tall girl was watching her surroundings nervously while the adorable girl took off her undergarments, revealing her snow-white skin. She winced as she massaged the wound around her armpit. She had a chaotic look in her eyes as she muttered softly, "Du Min, it has been 3 days. Who knows when rescue will come? Our camp is quickly running out of food." The tall girl, Du Min, fell silent when she heard that. She felt her life had changed completely over the past 3 days. She had been a student of Ethereal Dao College 3 days ago, but now, she was lost in a land filled with danger. The pond cloud rainforest looked beautiful, but in fact, its ground was moist and filled with decay. Animal bones could be seen from time to time, and there were many foot-long centipedes and colorful snakes making their occasional appearances. The sight left one's scalp tingling. Animals had also evolved rapidly, like humans, ever since the Spirit Inception era. They had great strength and were extremely savage. It made the wilderness a forbidden zone for humans. As the two girls agonized over their predicament, a fatty who had an unyielding look on his face stood not far from them under a tree. With his head up, he stood there peeing. The fatty was none other than Wang Baolei. He had not noticed the two girls, nor did he see the tiny flowers beneath his feet. They had originally stood tall and proud, but now, the flowers were swaying wildly because of the stream of pee. Darn it. I, Wang Baolei, have always claimed to be able to read people, seeing through the hearts of all. I never expected that I would fall for Ethereal Dao College's scheme. This Ethereal Dao College is way too wicked. They managed to put on such a realistic act. To convince us of the situation, they even made everyone see the cruiser explode. Wang Baolei was infuriated deep down. The past 3 days had truly put him on tenterhooks. 3 days ago, he and his schoolmates had fallen asleep in the spirit cultivation chamber without even realizing it. They were awoken by a loud bang, and before they could even get their bearings, their bodies were thrown right out of the cruiser by a powerful impact. Thankfully, the magnetic spirit attire had the ability to reduce shock and repel lightning. He had landed in the pond cloud rainforest safely, but had then witnessed the cruiser explode amid the electromagnetic pulse. Wang Baolei and the others found themselves scattered across the forest. There was a lack of food, and the beasts were ferocious. Their future was still a question mark, and the horror the students faced made them change drastically. Some revealed their true characters. Others formed groups, and a few forged ahead alone. Some were decisive, and some were weak. The concept of survival of the fittest was just too jarring and sudden for these students who had just been enrolled into Ethereal Dao College. But under such a drastic change, it seemed to trigger certain things in them. Be it greed or ferocity, selflessness or kindness, all of them sprouted and were magnified. Shameless. Wang Baolei grumbled deep down. He had believed everything he encountered the past 3 days to be real. He had been so frightened that he had put up with the thought of staying in the camp of his arch-rival, Du Min, when he bumped into her. After 3 days passed, he realized that by not eating proper meals, he had miraculously lost about 3 kilograms through his voice transmission ring's weight measuring feature. His shock from the revelation turned into suspicion. This was just too different from the experience Wang Baolei had in the past. He had once fasted and worked out crazily for a month in order to lose weight, but for an unknown reason, not only did he not lose weight, he even gained 1.5 kilograms. Now, he had lost about 3 kilograms in 3 days. That was completely impossible for him, especially when he recalled the autobiographies he had read. In them, people reminisced on their days in their respective Dao colleges and seemed to mention, in vague terms, that the Dow colleges would have so-called freshman tests from time to time. If not for Wang Baolei's thorough research, it would have been very difficult for him to have noticed this point. Having connected the dots together, he was baffled by how everything that had happened was done so realistically by ethereal Dow College. It was very likely that there had only been a slip-up because they had designed the experience based on an ordinary person. But clearly, he was no ordinary person. He was 50% certain that everything he saw in front of him was an illusion. And the evidence that fully convinced him of his theory was the black half-mask that the old physician had returned to him. With this thought in mind, the peeing Wang Baolei could not help but lower his head to look at his chest. An indescribable sense of peculiarity arose in his heart. He acutely remembered that he had casually kept the black half-mask close to his chest before he stepped into the spirit cultivation chamber. After the terrifying turn of events, he'd had no time to even think about it. It was only moments ago that he realized by sheer chance that his hand could pass through the mask, despite it looking normal. It was as though he could not touch the mask. It seemed like the virtual world, which could replicate almost anything, found it difficult to decompose the mask's components to model it. And with the passage of time, even its external shape had begun to turn unreal. At the same time, it exuded some blurry fragments of text. Although he could not read it clearly, the changes in the mask made Wang Baolei's confidence in his theory go from 50% to 100%. If he continued analyzing according to his theory, it was not hard to guess the goal of the test with the fake catastrophe as its backstory. It's impossible for it to be a measure of strength. After all, everyone has yet to study any ancient martial arts. Then, the goal of this test must be to test one's mettle in the face of danger. Perhaps it's also to test one's confidence in the Dow College. As Wang Baolei peed, his mind whirled constantly. From time to time, he would even have a few pea shivers. As the tiny flower in front of him was getting pelted into a mess, Wang Baolei's breathing hastened a little. He felt that he had to grasp the opportunity in front of him to gain bonus points. That's what I'll do. Upon coming to this conclusion, Wang Baolei shook himself vigorously, and just as he was about to pull up his pants, he suddenly saw the tiny river not far away. Under the moonlight, although Du Min was standing there, Wang Baolei's eyes were not on her. They were fixated on the adorable girl who was cleaning her wound. There's a humanoid beast. Wang Baolei's eyes widened as he gasped. His heart raced when he caught sight of them. Du Min, who remained vigilant of her surroundings, sensed the gaze. She looked over, and her eyes met Wang Baolei's. After a moment of shock, her expression changed, but before she could scream, Wang Baolei glared at her, pulled up his pants, and shouted first. What are you looking at? Have you never seen a man pee? The moment he said that, Du Min choked from all the things that she wanted to say. She trembled in rage, for she had never met another man as shameless as Wang Baolei. She could not help but curse. Darn fatty, you call yourself a man. Wang Baolei nearly swelled in anger when he heard that. The snarky Du Min had been his arch-rival since he was young. They felt repulsed by the sight of each other, and in a twist of fate, they had always been in the same class. Now, they had both enrolled in ethereal Dow College. Wang Baolei took a deep breath and scoffed. Darn washboard, you call yourself a woman. If you want to read more chapters, please visit freewebnovel.com to experience faster update speed. Du Min nearly spat out a mouthful of blood when she heard the biting remark. A vein protruded from her forehead, and just as she was about to charge over, Wang Baolei let out a long sigh. My untainted body has been completely seen by the two of you. How can I live on? He looked as though life held nothing more for him as he pulled up his pants and ran off. His heart was racing while cold sweat covered his back. He complimented himself for being quick to react, or else he would have been in trouble. Du Min widened her eyes angrily when she saw Wang Baolei escaping. In response, she chased after him. As for the adorable girl in the river behind her, she had a bewildered look after hearing the duo's biting exchange. She did not feel like Wang Baolei had sexually harassed her. When she saw Du Min run off in pursuit, she donned her clothes and quickly chased after the duo with her face red. Du Min's angry tirade broke the pond cloud rainforest's silence. People from the temporary encampment up ahead rushed over when they heard the disturbance, blocking Wang Baolei from proceeding further. The person leading the group was a torch-wielding youth dressed in white. He had a burly build with eyebrows like swords and eyes like stars. He stood out from the crowd with many students surrounding him. Clearly, he was the leader. This person was Lu Daoban, the person who had united everyone in this encampment over the past 3 days, showcasing his personal charm. Wang Baolei, what did you do? Lu Daoban noticed Du Min rushing over furiously at a glance. And Wang Baolei, who was being pursued, was holding up his pants as he proceeded forward. Lu Daoban had been taken aback by such an odd scene. He had long taken a liking to Du Min, so he instinctively loathed Wang Baolei. All I did was pee. Before Wang Baolei could finish his sentence, they heard a loud scream coming from the 2 girls far away. A stench instantly permeated the area as soon as they heard the scream. Swashing sounds like waves crashing into the beach spread quickly like a storm passing through. Wang Baolei jerked his head around, and at the same time, the expressions of Lu Daoban and the other students changed. They saw countless snakes slithering out from the ground and tree branches around Du Min and the adorable girl. The snakes looked extremely venomous, judging from the myriad of colors they could see. The numbers were just too great, and it looked like a sea of snakes was surrounding the 2 girls. The duo had a drastic change in expression when they saw the snakes surround them. It was even worse when the snakes opened their mouths lined with venomous fangs. Venomous liquid dripped down as they hissed. The stench was revolting. Lu Daoban jolted. He did not have the time to bother with Wang Baolei. He charged straight for Du Min. There were a few other students who ran over to help with reddened eyes. All of this happened too quickly. At the instant everyone rushed over to help, there was an infantile cry coming from the distant forest. It left one's heart palpitating. A red line, which was as thick as a human's arm, could be seen clearly despite the darkness. It flitted over at an astounding speed. The body that leapt occasionally revealed a pale white head. It no longer looked like a snake's head, it resembled that of a baby. However, the look in its eyes made everyone's heart thump heavily. Red bone white neonate snake. One of the students recognized it. Everyone panicked, and people retreated amid shocked exclamations. Lu Daoban became flustered as his hair stood on end. He felt his heart palpitating furiously. The red bone white neonate snake was simply too infamous. It was listed as one of the top 1,000 dangerous creatures in the Spirit Inception era. Although its body was weak, it was very fast, and its venom was potent. Just being tainted by a sliver of its venom was enough to reduce one to a pool of blood, leaving the victim with only red bones. That was also how it had earned its name. Even though he liked Du Min, he instinctively felt that she was not worth losing his life for. He subconsciously took a step back to avoid the red bone white neonate snake, afraid that he and the rest would perish while it reveled in its murderous deeds. Wang Baolei took a deep breath when he saw this scene. Following that, he immediately recalled that everything was, in fact, fake. He immediately relaxed as his eyes lit up. He knew his opportunity to shine in front of the teachers had appeared. Since it's all fake, what's there to be afraid of? Upon coming to this conclusion, Wang Baolei immediately puffed out his chest and looked at his schoolmates, who were running away contemptibly. Although the flat-chested Du Min has a biting tongue and is ugly, and she is her always using her privileges to make things difficult for me, I, Wang Baolei, am a person of sublime character, a righteous person, a man not afraid of sacrifice, a person who has transcended mediocrity, and someone who is willing to help his schoolmates. In such a dangerous environment, how can I retreat? Others might be afraid to forge forward for fear of death, but, for my schoolmates, I have no fear. The shameless fatty nearly moved himself with his own words. Did he forget that he was only in a virtual world? It appeared he had forgotten the fact. He immersed himself completely in his acting. Washboard, I'll show you what it means to be a man today. When everyone else was retreating in horror, not only did Wang Baolei refuse to retreat, he even roared and puckered his lips. He raised his chin as though his rotund face was as sharp as a blade. Filled with manliness, he strode forward and charged into the snake horde with indomitable might. The figure with extraordinary might and an imposing stance seemed to represent righteousness. He ran straight for the two girls. This scene immediately left Du-min dumbfounded. Even though she was amid the snakes, she still found the situation jarring. However, the adorable girl beside her could not help but become excited. As for the rest, they were astounded by Wang Baolei's roar and imposing might. At the instant the red bone-white neonate snake approached the girls, Wang Baolei arrived like a descending god. He grabbed the snake that struck horror into the hearts of many and threw it far away. He exuded a mighty and overbearing aura, as though a saint had possessed him that very instant. He emanated an awe-inspiring air, and without even hesitating, he carried the excited girl and stuffed the dazed Du-min under his armpit before rushing back toward the crowd. However, there were just too many snakes. On his journey back, he got bitten in the ass several times. His face was already black by the time he returned. However, he endured it by gritting his teeth. Only when he had safely brought the girls back did he lose his footing. Completely enervated, he collapsed. It seems I was a little foolhardy. My ass hurts. It's proof that being a real man is very difficult, Wang Baolei lamented inwardly. He saw Du-min still looking at him. She seemed to have fallen into a daze. As for the adorable girl, her eyes contained gratitude, as well as a peculiar look. The crowd around him looked at him as if they had seen a ghost. Although he found his eyelids heavy, he still felt a little proud of himself. When the painful wounds on his ass began to turn numb, Wang Baolei immediately grabbed Du-min's hand. Du-min, I saved your life. I can't feel my ass now. I heard that one can be saved if the venom is sucked out. Help me. Without finishing his sentence, Wang Baolei fainted. Just as his head toppled, he saw that he was about to fall on Du-min's chest. He realized something and forcibly changed directions, landing on the adorable girl's breasts. Upon seeing this scene, the crowd had odd looks on their faces. Du-min's face turned grim when she saw how Wang Baolei still had a repulsive look on his face despite being unconscious. At that moment, in the Federation's dominion, a great distance away from the Pond Cloud Rainforest, a red cruiser was approaching Ethereal Dao College. Inside the spirit cultivation chamber, hundreds of students were sleeping peacefully. Wang Baolei was among them, too. He seemed to be having a beautiful dream, evident from the pleasant smile at the corner of his lips, as his head was cocked to the side. In the main hull of the cruiser, all the teachers, including the old physician, were staring blankly with widened eyes. They were looking at one of the crystal screens floating in front of them. The screen showed the unconscious Wang Baolei, who had just saved Du-min in the Pond Cloud Rainforest. What's this fatty's name? Although they are in a hallucination nexus, it feels no different from reality. His performance in there must stem from his true character. Such bravery and the fearlessness when it came to saving his schoolmates makes him a good seedling, one not seen in 100 years. He's the kind of excellent student that our Dao College yearns for the most. The teachers exclaimed one after another as they marveled at Wang Baolei. There were even a few teachers who were moved as they considered if they should rope in Wang Baolei immediately to join their faculty. Even the old physician, also known as the Chancellor of Ethereal Dao College, was slightly dumbfounded. He hesitated, as he had a hunch that something was not right. Did I really make an error in my judgment? As he pondered over it, he took out Wang Baolei's file from the student's dossier and began reading it. A World Worth Protecting Chapter 3 Schoolmates, Count on Me. AA Chapter 3. Schoolmates, Count on Me. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Wang Baolei still found himself inside the hallucination nexus when he woke up. A day had passed, and the snake's venom was not as potent as people imagined. Thanks to the schoolmates who were skilled in the treatment of snake venom, Wang Baolei failed to have his beautiful wish fulfilled. Thankfully, when he regained consciousness, Bunny, whose real name was Zhou Xiaoya, took care of him meticulously. For once, Du-min did not clash with him. This made Wang Baolei feel at ease. He began recalling the rescue he had accomplished. The teachers must have seen it, and he must have gained quite a number of bonus points from the test. The only thing that left him depressed was that while the group traversed the forest in search of their schoolmates over the following days, Liu Daobin seemed like a completely different person. Perhaps because he was feeling ashamed of what had happened, he would consistently choose to charge straight ahead to quickly resolve any problems whenever they encountered any danger along the way. It robbed the already frail Wang Baolei of opportunities to showcase himself. And worst of all, there were no more serious situations like the horde of snakes. It made Wang Baolei feel like he was wasting the potential of his talents. While wallowing in depression, all he could do was watch Lu Daobin gain more points for the test. If Lu Daobin continues like this, his score in this secret test might even be higher than mine. Wang Baolei eventually turned anxious, but these emotions did not last too long. They had set up camp in a narrow passage between huge rocks, also known as a one-line sky, and late into the second night, they heard the ferocious howling of wolves. The howls seemed able to penetrate rock, piercing straight into the ears of all present. People awoke shocked as they looked over. They immediately saw numerous pairs of blood-red eyes amid the boundless woods in front of them. There were countless savage wolves, which had surrounded them in a fan-shaped formation. Some were running on the ground while others had leapt into the trees. They let out snarling howls with eyes filled with bloodlust. It was a shocking sight. This scene seemed to form a repressive wind that changed the expressions of Lu Daobin and company. They were covered in sweat as their scalps turned numb. Quick, run. There's a pack of wolves. They are nether bone wolves. After the encounter with the snake horde, Dumin appeared to have matured a lot more. She immediately shouted for everyone to enter the one-line sky and use the geological formation to ward off the pack of wolves. Lu Daobin appeared ambivalent before he finally gritted his teeth. He did not immediately retreat when facing the pack of wolves. Instead, he called upon his schoolmates to fend off the wolves to stall for time. Bunny helped Wang Baolei up in a fluster. Although she trembled, she still managed to drag him toward the one-line sky with everyone else. However, Wang Baolei was already filled with anxiety at that moment. From his point of view, it was fine if he had yielded a few points to Lu Daobin before. Now that a huge opportunity had presented itself, how could he allow Lu Daobin to snatch it away? Instantly, a sacred fire seemed to blaze in his eyes. He regained his might once again as he stopped in his tracks. Xiaoya, leave first. After Wang Baolei said that, he ran straight for where Lu Daobin was. He grabbed him, and while Lu Daobin was shocked, Wang Baolei threw him toward the one-line sky, while shouting loudly, "Brother, retreat first. I'm here." Lu Daobin was completely confounded. Before he could react, he saw Wang Baolei charge into the pack of wolves without any hesitation. "Everyone, leave quickly. I'll protect you." At that moment, Wang Baolei exuded righteousness and sacredness once more. A distance away, Bunny felt her heartstrings tremble once again as she looked at Wang Baolei. There were other male schoolmates who had already retreated back to the one-line sky. But stirred on by Wang Baolei, they felt ardor and zeal course through their bodies. They turned around, and as they were about to follow in his footsteps, a red-eyed Wang Baolei kicked all of them back. Wang Baolei had an awe-inspiring righteousness about him as he roared, "Brothers, leave first." He was very alert, afraid that others would vie with him for points. From his point of view, the pack of wolves was still worth points even if they looked savage. As for the students who had been kicked back to the one-line sky, they felt palpitations through them while their eyes filled with gratitude. They could not help but feel pumped when they saw Wang Baolei's selfless figure, his might, and his cause that was greater than himself. They attempted to charge forward once again. Wang Baolei instantly turned anxious as he rushed to push each and every one of them back. He was afraid that they would come back again, so he gritted his teeth and raised his hands up by the one-line sky's entrance and pressed down on the rock walls, using his body as a meat shield. He anxiously roared, "I've already been poisoned by the snakes. There's no way for me to escape. Don't worry about me. Leave quickly, all of you." Wang Baolei's every word was dripping with raw emotion. It left the people rushing forward quivering, and at that moment, the pack of wolves sped up. They swarmed over and snarled, their bloodlust being felt thoroughly. They pounced at Wang Baolei crazily. This scene shook the students, who had retreated into the one-line sky, to their very core. "Wang Baolei, come back quickly. Heavens, he's using his flesh and blood to block the pack of wolves to not be a burden on us." Bunny, Du Min, and all the other students in the one-line sky were moved by his gesture. They only felt that the present Wang Baolei and his rotund figure appeared like a majestic mountain, a picture that would be engraved in their memories for all eternity. Liu Daoban was similarly moved. His breathing hastened, and his displeasure toward Wang Baolei completely dissipated. All that was left was a deep sense of shock. The scene of Wang Baolei holding up his arms to the walls like a human blockade felt like he was holding up the collapsing sky. Even Wang Baolei was moved by his own actions. He felt that if he were a teacher, he would definitely be deeply moved after seeing all that he had done. But in order to gain more points, he secretly thought of sucking up to the college. He said firmly, "It is my honor to have been accepted by Ethereal Dao College even if I die here. I live and die as part of Ethereal Dao College." Wang Baolei felt pleased, completely satisfied with his own words. He did not believe that the teachers would not be moved by his words and actions. However, this sense of complacency did not last long. Wang Baolei, who had only considered gaining more points in the test, had forgotten one thing. That was, he could feel pain. Although he was hallucinating, the pain was no different from that of real life. As the howling wolves approached and clamped their jaws on him, he instantly seemed to drown amid the dozen or so wolves right in front of everyone. It hurts. Wang Baolei's body quivered as his breathing turned heavy. All he could see were the jaws of the wolves, and he smelled the blood on them. The excruciating pain that ensued when their fangs bit at his flesh made him nearly forget that it was all an illusion. But he was determined and had no intention to retreat. His body turned into a bloody mess, exposing white bone in many spots. All he could hear was the shredding sounds and wolf howls mixed together like a death knell as his consciousness became haze. But despite such excruciating pain, he displayed the one outstanding quality he possessed amid all his flaws. That was grit. It was not easy to encounter a situation worth so many points. "I can't waste it. I want to score past the maximum in this test by getting all the bonus points in one go," Wang Baolei roared inwardly. Just as he wanted to hold on a little longer, a red figure suddenly dashed past the weeping and retreating students from a distance away at a stunning speed. The red figure was a short-haired youth who looked about 18. He was handsome, and there was a coldness in his eyes and brows. He wore a red attire that only made it easier for him to do combat. He had a huge bow slung over his shoulder, and his body was like a flitting ape in the woods. As he approached, he drew his bow and released an unexpected barrage of arrows. 9 arrows shot out instantly. The arrows were just too fast as they whistled through the air and past the crowd. They whizzed through the one-line sky and whistled over Wang Baolei's head, beneath his crouch, and past his limbs. 9 ferocious wolves were struck as they let out sharp painful cries. Not a single shot missed its target. The immense strength contained within sent the 9 wolves flying upon impact. This sudden turn of events made all the retreating students fall into a daze. Even Wang Baolei was taken aback. The 9 arrows had flown past him in such close proximity that he had been given quite a fright. Before he could even react, the red-dressed youth moved even faster under the watchful eyes of everyone. As though his strength had suddenly surged, he followed closely behind the arrows and charged through the one-line sky, leapt above Wang Baolei's head, and shot another 9 arrows. With a few alarming thuds, which were accompanied by the tragic cries of 9 wolves, the surrounding wolves were terrified. They instinctively retreated, and the red-dressed youth used this opportunity to land, grab Wang Baolei, and retreat rapidly. Wang Baolei's body jolted. He did not care about the pain. He was anxiously watching as the gap between him and the wolves widened. "Brother, put me down. I can still last a little longer." The red-dressed youth was moved by Wang Baolei's words, even though he was quite an aloof person. Wang Baolei's body was mangled, as though it would crumble at any moment. "You have already done very well. Leave the rest to me." Wang Baolei turned more agitated when he heard that. He felt like the youth was taking his lines for himself. Just as he was about to say another word, the youth took a deep breath. He raised his right hand suddenly as the muscles on his arm instantly swelled several notches. Wang Baolei saw the startling sight of him drawing the huge bow in his hand, aiming at the rock wall to the side. Very quickly, more than 10 shots had been delivered. The strength used was just too great. Cracks appeared in the rocks, and the wall collapsed, crumbling into countless fragmentary stones. With a rumble, the one-line sky was completely blocked. Wang Baolei widened his eyes as he looked at the youth's beefy arm and swallowed the words that he had been about to say. Everything had happened too quickly. As the one-line sky collapsed, the red-dressed youth blinked and carried Wang Baolei back to the crowd. The students not far away felt their minds and hearts quake when they saw this scene. Liu Daoban drew a gasp and opened his mouth, but no voice came out of it. The ancient martial realm's second level, physical seal. I haven't reached physical seal yet. I have only perfected my first level, the red-dressed youth explained as he gave Liu Daoban a glance and lowered Wang Baolei. You already have the might of a physical seal even without attaining it. Thank you for saving us. Liu Daoban quickly cupped his fist to salute him. The other schoolmates rushed to do the same. There were even quite a number of girls who looked at him with reverence. Instantly, the red-dressed youth was the center of attention. As for Wang Baolei, he was lying on the ground, watching all of this in depression. He knew that the red-dressed youth had saved him out of goodwill, but he felt that he had lost his opportunity to win points. However, he knew that there was nothing he could do about that. The ancient martial realm. Wang Baolei sighed inwardly. Ever since the Federation entered the Spirit Inception era, most citizens had only been able to learn a beginning cultivation technique known as Qi Fostering Art despite it being an era of cultivation. The technique allowed one to absorb spirit Qi to extend one's longevity and use one's body as a medium to condense spirit stones for sale. That was why it was spread widely. For actual cultivation, the barriers of entry remained very high, and it was difficult to meet the requirements. It also needed a foundation, which was why ancient martial arts had experienced a resurgence. After the Federation concluded various studies, the 3 levels of the ancient martial realm were formed. Blood Qi, Physical Seal, Pulse Enrichment. Only by reaching the perfected stage of the Pulse Enrichment level would one be qualified to vie for the fate of the Tao that was equivalent to a golden opportunity. However, most of the ancient martial realm cultivation techniques were in the hands of the various factions of the Federation. The most orthodox method of obtaining them, for most people, was to be accepted into one of the 4 Tao colleges. Apart from that, they could only obtain them by offering their services to various large factions or families. He's about my age. He's likely from a renowned family. Wang Baolei sighed. The feeling of having his limelight stolen only made the excruciating pain burn more intensely. He could not help but grunt painfully to attract the attention of everyone. Many people rushed over immediately. Wang Baolei felt a lot better when he realized that people still valued him. However, he found it too painful, and now that his score was likely enough, he decided to simply pass away. Hence, he took a deep breath and spoke in a trembling voice. I can't hold on much longer. Schoolmates, after you become students of my ethereal Tao College, you must. Wang Baolei had fully gotten into character with his emotions. He was about to deliver his words filled with roused magnanimity. But at that moment, the red-dressed youth had a solemn expression. He walked to Wang Baolei's side, took out a bottle of pills, and fed him one. For a person willing to sacrifice himself for the Tao College, I, Chen Ziyang, will absolutely not let him die just like that. Fellow schoolmate, you can now rest. Leave everything to me. Chen Ziyang's words were resolute and decisive. Complemented by his combat strength, he immediately projected a convincing impression into the hearts of everyone. While everyone else expressed their gratitude, Wang Baolei was dumbfounded as he stared at Chen Ziyang in a daze. Once again, he felt like the fellow in front of him had snatched his lines. He wanted to redeem the situation, but as the medicine spread, Wang Baolei turned dizzy, feeling so weak that he could not say a word. All he could do was lie there in anger and sadness. As he looked at the sky, which was gradually brightening, he only had one thought deep in his mind. He must be like me. He's cheating. A World Worth Protecting Chapter 4 Ethereal Tao Colgia Chapter 4. Ethereal Tao College Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. While Wang Baolei had fainted out of anger and sadness, the red-hot air cruiser in the real world continued crossing the sky rapidly. It was quickly approaching Ethereal City's protectorate. Chaos ensued in the main hull of the vessel. The alchemy faculty wants Wang Baolei. Don't even think about snatching him from my combat faculty. He's mine. Nearly all the teachers were flushed with excitement. They would bang the table at times while arguing incessantly about which faculty Wang Baolei would join after he entered the Dao College. All of this stemmed from Wang Baolei's self-sacrifice. The shock he had left with them was just too great. His bloody, mangled body had moved all of them. Plus, the words he had said were like bolts of lightning that shook their very core, especially his last sentence. It had made their hearts palpitate intensely. I live and die as part of ethereal Dao College. This sentence effused bravery and loyalty. He was the kind of student that every faculty in the Dao College yearned for. Therefore, how could they concede him to the others? As the debate continued, a thin, middle-aged teacher with a goatee took out a jade card with reddened eyes when he realized that he was unable to recruit Wang Baolei on his own. He injected his spirit powers into it and roared, "My Dharmic Armament faculty uses its mandate that can only be used once every 5 years. We mandate that Wang Baolei is to be a specially recruited student of the Dharmic Armament faculty. None of you will snatch him from me." The moment he said those words, the jade card in his hands shimmered immediately. Instantly, the back of the crystal with Wang Baolei's name on it had the additional words, "Dharmic Armament Faculty," on it. This scene alarmed everyone. The mandate was just too precious. Typically, teachers would monitor the students after their matriculation before approving their enrollment into their respective faculties. Only a select few would be offered an olive branch by the faculty members. Regardless, it was a choice that went both ways except, every faculty had one mandate that they could use once every 5 years. It could be used to mandate that a particular student would become a member of their faculty. Furthermore, it came with extravagant treatment and resources. The student would also gain special privileges that far exceeded their peers. It was like handing an important position to the student. As a result of these perks, such a mandate was typically given to students with special backgrounds or those who excelled flawlessly. It was extremely precious. Although Wang Baolei was excellent, the others had hesitated to use their mandates on him. They could not help but shake their heads with a wry smile. Upon seeing his colleagues' expressions, Goatee felt that he had made the right decision. He believed that with Wang Baolei's character, his loyalty to the Dharmic Armament faculty would definitely be one of committed devotion after they nurtured him properly. No matter how talented one was, it was still possible for them to commit acts of betrayal. The only ones who could not be bought with money were those with a righteous character and absolute loyalty. Only such disciples would step forward bravely at critical moments, making them worth every cent spent nurturing them. Goatee immediately became contented when he thought of this. He looked at the still frowning old physician, who was staring at Wang Baolei's information in deep thought. "Chancellor, our Dharmic Armament faculty has mandated that Wang Baolei is ours. You have to be impartial about this." The old physician lowered his head and continued reading the dossier record as he spoke nonchalantly. "Don't worry. He is yours, but I hope you do not regret it." The Ethereal Dao College had detailed information about every matriculated student starting from when they were young. There was a subtle keenness in his eyes as he said those words while reading the information. "Chancellor, you." Goatee was taken aback when he heard that. The other teachers were perplexed as well. He once attempted to lose weight for a month. He fasted and exercised vigorously, but not only did his weight not decrease, it increased. Such an impossible situation that does not happen to ordinary people happened to him. The old physician sneered. He then flipped through the physical characteristics of every student in the hallucination nexus. His eyes landed on Wang Baolei's weight changes after the test began. The old physician raised his head and said firmly, "If I'm not wrong, this Wang Baolei has known for a while now that it is a virtual world." He knew that it was an exam and was cheating. "That's impossible." Goatee drew a gasp as he held his chest. He felt faint. "We will know if he's been cheating by testing him." The old physician looked at Wang Baolei through the crystal screen. His right hand rose to control the nexus as it suddenly stirred. In the hallucination nexus, the students had just survived the calamity, but before they could rejoice, they suddenly heard an earth-shaking roar from the forest in front of them. It swept toward them like a storm. Towering trees were destroyed from the sound waves and were blasted apart. The ground also quaked as a huge bear about 100 feet tall crawled up from the ground and roared. Most of its body appeared to be rotting, but its eyes had a ghostly fire, as though it had an undying body. It effused a suppressive might that left everyone trembling to the core. It was the overlord of the woods. Its presence caused the woodland animals and birds to tremble in fear. That's impossible. Heavens, that is an ancient Boer specter bear. It's an ancient Boer specter bear, a powerful being whose strength is equal to the perfected ancient martial realm, capable of tearing apart an expert at the second level of the ancient martial realm. Lu Daoben instantly turned limp, and Bunny, Du Min, and the rest revealed looks of extreme horror. Even the red-dressed youth had a drastic change in expression. Most terrifying of all, the ancient Boer specter bear charged straight for them after roaring. Every step it took shook the ground as it exuded an imposing might. Run, quick. It was unknown who shouted as everyone began scattering on instinct. Even the color in the red-dressed youth's face drained as he gave up the thought of putting up a fight. He quickly retreated. Wang Baolei was only jolted awake from his unconsciousness. When he saw the savage bear, his eyes lit up. His already weak body began heaving up and down rapidly. There are actually more bonus points. In his excitement, Wang Baolei struggled to crawl toward the gigantic bear. Schoolmates, quickly leave. Ignore me. I'll help you stall for time. Wang Baolei said as he barely managed to pick up a rock to throw at the approaching bear. Bear, eat me. As long as I, Wang Baolei, am alive, I will absolutely not allow you to harm my schoolmates. Wang Baolei roared. The escaping students once again felt so touched that words could not describe it. Many of the girls even wept for him. Inside the cruiser's main hull, the old physician sneered when he saw the gigantic bear's massive body charge at Wang Baolei, about to rip him apart alive. See that? The excitement in the punk's eyes. Have you ever seen anyone with such an expression while at death's doorstep? It's as though he's afraid he won't die. The other teachers all had strange expressions when they looked at Wang Baolei. Wang Baolei really looked heroic if they looked at him normally, but if they observed him with suspicion, the flaws in his act became apparent. This punk is way too shameless. It would have been fine if he cheated, but he is acting way too out of line. The teachers in the main hull could not bear to continue watching. As for Goatee, he was clenching his teeth, feeling deep regret as his heart seemed to bleed. He was just short of beating his chest and stamping his feet. Heavens, my mandate. Finally, the old physician waved his right hand once again. Immediately, every image in the crystal shattered and dissipated. All right, we will be landing in the Dao College soon. That's the end of the test. The final scene Wang Baolei saw was the moment the hallucination nexus collapsed. The gigantic bear had covered the sky, and following that, it turned turbid along with the world, before turning completely black. When he regained consciousness again, he felt his body jolt. It felt like a force was pushing him forward. He opened his eyes, realizing that he was back in the cruiser's spirit cultivation chamber. He even heard the exclamations of the people around him. Weren't we in the Pond Cloud rainforest? Why are we here? Was I dreaming or were all of us dreaming? Wang Baolei blinked as he immediately feigned a blank look as he screamed. Quickly leave, all of you. Don't bother about me. Bear, I'll fight it out with you. His voice was just too loud. Due to his act of courage in the Nexus, it was difficult not to win the attention of others. He immediately attracted many looks when he shouted. The students around him were even more agitated. It's brother Wang Baolei. What a great pal. Wang Baolei, you are the boss from now on. Du Min and Bunny were looking at him too. Having survived the calamity, the way they looked at Wang Baolei was no longer the same, especially Bunny, whose eyes were brimming with tears. If she was not wearing the magnetic spirit attire and sitting a distance away, she might have leapt into his arms. All of this left Wang Baolei extremely pleased with himself. Just as he considered how he should receive the adoration of everyone, he heard a stern voice reverberate throughout the spirit cultivation chamber. All students, we have arrived above the Dao College. Everything that just happened was part of our ethereal Dao College's freshman test. Your results will contribute to your overall grade. Finally, I would like to welcome you to Ethereal Tao College. Perhaps the stern voice managed to calm their hearts, or perhaps it was the fact that they were close to the Tao College, but all the students inside the spirit cultivation chamber collected themselves and psyched themselves up as they turned to look outside the windows. Although Wang Baolei felt a little wistful, he could not conceal his feelings of anticipation. When he looked down at the ground beneath him through a window, he immediately saw a massive lake. The lake looked like a mirror that paved the ground. It was extremely beautiful as it reflected the colors in the sky. There were 3 islands in the lake aligned parallel to one another. There were many boats sailing between the islands. As they approached, one could even see buildings with an air of antiquity on the islands as well as numerous people. In the periphery of the islands, it looked like there were tens of thousands of people, constituting a tiny city. Our Ethereal Tao College is a renowned college that was established in AD 2348. It experienced the Federation era and participated in the Battle of the Beasts. It also ushered in the Spirit Inception era and changed its teachings to the Tao. It has more than 7 centuries of history and has nurtured countless elites and heroes. It has contributed significantly to the progress of mankind. Even the previous Federation president graduated from Ethereal Tao College. The lake you see is called the Green Forest Lake. As the saying goes, years as a green forest pass by happily, the happiness within matches that of a youth. As for the 3 islands, they are the Heaven Traversal Island, core to the Tao College, the Upper Academy Island for Tao disciples, and the Lower Academy Island for students like you. Of those who inherit our Ethereal Tao College's legacy, there is the guiding principle to change the world and bring world peace. The stern voice resounded in the spirit cultivation chamber. It was filled with pride as it spread through the hearts of everyone. Everyone, including Wang Baolei, could not help but feel stirred by Ethereal Tao College's presence and heritage. As the Lower Academy Island beneath them rapidly increased in size, they could see more than 10 towering mountain peaks on the biggest mountains. They looked like sharp swords that aimed for the skies. Every mountain peak had countless buildings. There were huge words on them, which were especially clear, even when seen from the sky. Dharmic Armament Faculty, Alchemy Faculty, Combat Faculty, or Ray Runes Faculty. Before they were able to take note of everything, they felt a sudden jerk following a great boom. The cruiser had traversed 5,000 kilometers from Phoenix City to land straight in the Lower Academy Island of Ethereal Tao College. They had arrived at Ethereal Tao College. A world worth protecting. Chapter 5 Specially recruited student. A Chapter 5. Specially recruited student. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Ethereal Tao College was extremely large, especially with the Lower Academy Island, which was truly majestic. It could accommodate 100,000 students during their studies. In the southeastern area of the Lower Academy Island, dozens of gigantic hot air balloon cruisers were parked in an aerial port. There were countless students filled with curiosity and excitement. They were getting off the cruisers with their luggage in tow. Although it was noisy, it was mostly filled with joyful laughter. These people came from different regions of the Federation. They were the new batch of students that had been accepted into the Tao colleges. On one cruiser's deck, Wang Baolei and company, who had come from Phoenix City, were carrying their luggage. All of them looked excitedly at the white clouds in the blue sky and the mountain peaks of the different faculties in the distance. They felt refreshed and were brimming with an indescribable sense of anticipation. However, compared to their youthful spirits, the old physician and the other teachers who walked out from the main hull had strange expressions. They were already very familiar with the students who had come from Phoenix City. They were especially familiar with Wang Baolei. They could not help but glance at him a few more times. Being accustomed to taking cues from the words and countenance of people, Wang Baolei naturally noticed it. Although he was among a crowd of people, he was still concerned about the results of the test. He was constantly paying attention to where the teachers were. Only then did he notice that something was amiss. Why are they looking at me like that? Are my results too heaven-defying? Ha, that must be the case. Wang Baolei immediately turned excited. However, there was a sense of curiosity amid the excitement. The reason was that among the teachers, there was a man with a goatee whose eyes appeared both angry and sad when he looked at him. What's the situation? Wang Baolei was perplexed. He found Goatee problematic, but before he could think through things carefully, all the teachers, including Goatee, walked straight for them. As they approached, a person sped up among the teachers and said to the red-dressed youth, "Chen Ziyang, come here. I'll show you to the registration booth." Chen Ziyang had a thought before he nodded and walked over before being taken away by the teacher. As they walked, they conversed. The teacher appeared to be giving him recommendations enthusiastically. When Wang Baolei saw this, his eyes lit up. Immediately, his breathing hastened. He had a guess. Would the results from the test begin showing their effects from this moment forth? His heart raced as it filled with anticipation. He puffed his chest out, afraid that the teachers did not see him. "Shu Liushan, follow me. Lu Daoban, come." Soon, the teachers began shouting one name after another. The people called were taken away. This scene made the hearts of people race. They could also tell that those who were named had done well in the test. They had won the favor of the teachers and were taken away ahead of the rest. They were offered olive branches from the respective faculties. Wang Baolei felt complacent. Although he did not hear a teacher shout out his name, he was very confident about his results in the test. He felt that the later one was called, the more excellent the students were. He even strongly looked forward to meeting the teacher who thought highly of himself. What should I do if I caught the eye of all the teachers? Man, how troubling. I wonder how I should choose. Wang Baolei felt happy deep down as he raised his head and puffed up his chest. However, after waiting all day, with even Dumin called away before, only about 80% of the hundreds of students were left beside him. He was somewhat dumbfounded. No way. Wang Baolei wiped the sweat from his forehead, finding it impossible to maintain his composure. The teachers constantly took other students away until there were almost left. Almost all the teachers were gone, with the old physician leaving after taking a glance at Wang Baolei. The only person left was Goatee, who looked like someone owed him a fortune. Wang Baolei felt a little faint seeing this. At that moment, the nasty-looking Goatee's chest puffed up a few times. He looked extremely unwilling but was forced to do something out of no choice. It was as though he had to finish going down a path he had chosen. Only then did he shout, "Wang Baolei, why aren't you coming over yet?" The words seemed to have been forced through his clenched teeth. After saying that, Goatee turned and disembarked the cruiser. Wang Baolei instantly became excited. He felt the voice was as beautiful as a lark's. He did not have the time to consider the expression Goatee had. He ran over hurriedly and very obligingly followed Goatee. It appeared as though he would not hesitate to help carry any luggage he had if he had any. As they left, the remaining disciples were made to disembark the cruiser. These students without anything special about them would choose their own faculties in the coming days. Goatee was taking wide strides away from the Lower Academy Island's aerial port, his face grim. There was a small cruiser parked in front of him, and standing by it were students from previous cohorts. They were waiting excitedly while decked in their blue college uniforms. Whenever they saw pretty girls walk past, they would immediately run over to introduce themselves warmly and show concern. When they saw Goatee arrive, they quickly acted reverently. "Teacher, walk slowly. What faculty are we from?" Wang Baolei's breathless voice sounded from behind Goatee. Goatee was an expert himself, so he walked fast. Wang Baolei, who had yet to cultivate any ancient martial arts, found it difficult to keep up. Goatee was utterly depressed. He took out a purple jade pendant, threw it to the approaching Wang Baolei, and snorted, "Report to the Dharmic Armament faculty by yourself. I have something to tend to and will be leaving first." With that said, he stepped into the small cruiser and quickly flew off. Wang Baolei was equally depressed after catching the jade pendant. He could also tell that something was wrong with the way the teacher had treated him. Was my performance so good that it was seen through? Sigh. What faculty is the Dharmic Armament faculty? Wang Baolei smacked his head and stood there with the jade pendant in hand. He felt vexed. He subconsciously took out a bag of snacks and began munching. He felt that Goatee was just too unreliable. Helplessly, he could only seek out answers himself. Since it was matriculation day, there were many people on Ethereal Tao College's Lower Academy Island. There was a sea of people at the aerial port, and their body heat only accentuated the hot weather. Although there was a lake breeze, it only blew hot air over. Wang Baolei stood there wiping his sweat. He saw a hawker stall selling ice water a distance away. It was advertised as ice spirit water. Although it was expensive, Wang Baolei was not the kind of person who would deny his wants. Even though it was expensive, he ran over and bought a few bottles before putting them in his luggage. As he drank the chilly ice spirit water, Wang Baolei looked around. He looked at the bustling aerial port and even saw a few people live streaming the matriculation of the freshmen. He could also vaguely hear them requesting virtual gifts. After asking around, Wang Baolei did not waste too much time. He gained some understanding of the Dharmic Armament faculty and immediately felt pumped. He sat on a small cruiser that was headed for Dharmic Armament Peak. There were many people at Dharmic Armament Peak as well. Some were visiting to make an informed choice of a faculty. Some had long made up their minds and were there to submit their applications. There was also quite a number of volunteers, seniors of the Dharmic Armament faculty. They were responsible for welcoming the students. They showed the freshmen, who came in waves, around the faculty. There were heads bobbing up and down far into the distance. It was quite a lively scene. As the crowd proceeded forward, Wang Baolei heard a female senior with an oblong face give an introduction with great excitement and seriousness. It matched what he had heard about the Dharmic Armament faculty. He felt that it was quite an impressive faculty. The Dharmic Armament faculty might appear to be about the refinement of artifacts, but there is some difference to it. It's about refining all items in the world into treasures. Our Ethereal Dao College's Dharmic Armament faculty is considered the cream of the crop in all of the Federation. We are skilled in everything from Dharmic artifacts and combat artifacts to day-to-day artifacts used by commoners. Also, every student who graduates is greatly sought after. The excitement in the senior's voice showcased her pride in her faculty. Back when you were in the sky, you must have noticed the 3 massive platforms of my Dharmic Armament Peak. They represent the 3 main halls, where spirit stones, inscriptions, and spirit kernels are studied. Unlike the foundational schools in our hometowns, there is relatively more freedom in the Dao College. There is no fixed curriculum for each faculty. From freshmen to seniors, they can enter any class to be instructed. As for the rest of the time, most people spend their time cultivating by themselves. Although there are exams every year, they are not very strict. Only the placement exam for the upper academy is critical. If you are unable to advance into the upper academy within 5 years, you will be asked to leave the Dao College. Wang Baolei kept the tidbit in mind when he heard the female senior mention the placement exams. The people around him did the same. However, you need not be too worried. Advancing into the upper academy is still something very far off for you. Alright, this is where freshmen can apply to join the faculty. Noticing that everyone was looking at her, the guide smiled. She stopped by a stone mirror about 100 feet tall by the mountainside. The stone mirror looked ancient, and it appeared as though it had experienced the vestiges of time. There were what seemed to be runic patterns on it. It looked very daunting. Place your application card on it, and you can descend the mountain. It will take the lower academy a maximum of 3 days to notify you of your acceptance. Each faculty will reveal their admission list too, said the female senior before she wiped her sweat. Her mouth was a little dry from all the talking and heat. She stood by the side, looking at the students. She turned wistful as she seemed to see herself from yesteryear. I wonder how many of them will be admitted. But then again, it can't be many. After all, not more than 4,000 are accepted per batch. As she sighed, Wang Baolei immediately noticed that she was wiping her sweat. He scurried over, took out a cold bottle of ice spirit water from his luggage, and handed it to her. Senior, it must have been tough on you. I would like to thank you on behalf of all us freshmen for explaining so much to us. You should drink some water in this scorching heat. Wang Baolei had an honest expression, and his voice sounded sincere. She could not help but size up the fatty in front of her. She immediately had a liking for him. His thoughtfulness was truly rare among all the freshmen she had guided. The other schoolmates also looked over. After all, Wang Baolei had not only represented himself, but all of them. It also gave them a good impression of him. Wang Baolei was pleased with himself when he saw how a bottle of ice spirit water had garnered him good impressions from so many people. He felt that his potential as an official had risen once more. Soon, the students approached the stone mirror with a sense of anticipation. One by one, they took out a blank jade card and placed it on the stone mirror. Light shot out from the jade card, signifying the completion of the imprint. Everyone had one jade card. The teachers who accompanied them had handed the cards out after they arrived at the lower Academy Island. However, Wang Baolei was somewhat dumbfounded when he saw the jade cards in their hands. What the heck? Why don't I have one? Wang Baolei quickly asked around, and after learning of the situation, he once again came to realize how unreliable Goatee was. Wang Baolei was the only one left after everyone else had imprinted their jade cards. The guide could not help but look at him and ask out of concern, "Junior, do you have any questions? My card is a little different from the others." Wang Baolei hesitated for a moment as he fondled the purple jade pendant close to his chest. He carefully placed it on the stone mirror. The instant the jade pendant touched the stone mirror, it suddenly released intense purple light. Even the stone mirror was illuminated in its entirety as a rumbling boom resounded throughout Dharmic Armament Peak. There was a shock wave that blasted outwards. All the surrounding students felt their hearts jolt as they retreated in shock. What's the situation? What's the matter? Even Wang Baolei was given a fright. That was not even the end. Even more astonishing were the majestic bells that resonated on Dharmic Armament Peak along with the soaring light. It seemed to reach a crescendo, as though it was about to announce something to the entire Dharmic Armament faculty. Clang, clang, clang. Instantly, every student on Dharmic Armament Peak, be it the students ascending the mountain, the students in the lecture halls, or those cultivating in various buildings, looked up. Beside the rock mirror, the senior with the oblong-shaped face felt her mind buzzing. She widened her eyes as they filled with disbelief. She exclaimed in shock, "Specially recruited student. What did you say?" Wang Baolei was even more perplexed. At the same time, a gong reverberated. On Dharmic Armament Peak, in a hall filled with spirit chi, Goatee was sat reading an ancient text. His originally calm heart turned restless once again. Why did that little bastard come so quickly? He felt vexed. The thought of him losing the mandate that could only be used once in 5 years made him terribly regretful. It would have been fine if no one had disturbed him, but the bell was reverberating loudly. Immediately, a few figures flew into the grand hall. They were the other teachers from the Dharmic Armament faculty. "Taoist Zhang Yude, I heard you specially recruited a very promising student for our Dharmic Armament faculty." "Haha, old Zhang, I always knew that you had a good eye. Where's that good seedling? Quickly summon him and let us meet him." As teachers entered with excited looks, Goatee's face turned ashen. The feeling was akin to having to tearfully finish eating the shit that he had just bought. He could only force a smile. That's right. He's a good seedling. I have an artifact to refine. I'll be making a move first. With that said, he left quickly. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would not be able to stop himself from smacking the good seedling to death. A World Worth Protecting Chapter 6 Big Troublia Chapter 6. Big Trouble Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. After finishing his registration and obtaining a cultivation technique, Taoist robes, and other miscellaneous items, Wang Baolei put on the red Taoist robe meant for specially recruited students. He was standing near a mountain peak. Although it was a little remote, he could not help but grin when standing before a beautiful building with excellent scenery. In front of him was a purple stone door, which opened automatically, revealing a cave abode. This is the legendary cave abode. Wang Baolei could not contain his excitement. For many students, they could only reside in buildings that resembled dormitories. Only a select few had the right to live inside a cave abode at the mountain peak. After all, that which is rare is dear. A mountain could have many buildings built, but the number of cave abodes was fixed. It was difficult to increase the number. Furthermore, the cave abodes had array formations that gathered spirit chi, making them have much denser spirit chi than the buildings. Despite having a small cave abode, what Wang Baolei had was enough to make countless students green with envy. He could acutely feel how different his robe was from the other students. He looked at his cave abode, and noticing that there was no one around, Wang Baolei finally could not help but roar with laughter. He felt highly spirited. After entering the cave abode, he realized it had a veranda despite it not being very big. It stretched out 20 feet past the edge of the mountain peak. Standing there felt like he was standing in the sky. The complacent Wang Baolei walked to the veranda and took in the scenery. He was in an extremely good mood as he took out a bag of snacks. Wang Baolei ate his snacks while he reveled in his good mood. He took out the martial cultivation technique that was unique to Ethereal Dao College. He saw, on the first page, 3 words written with bold, vigorous strokes. Ancient martial arts. It was not something unique to the Dharmic Armament faculty. All students in the lower academy were required to study this foundational cultivation technique. After freshmen were matriculated, they would enter their various faculties according to their choices, where they would learn all the unique knowledge the faculty had to offer. As for ancient martial arts, it was provided to all faculties, intended as a foundational cultivation technique that supported the knowledge gained from each faculty. The ancient martial realm has 3 stages: blood qi, physical seal, and pulse enrichment. As dusk approached, the wind turned colder. It blew at Wang Baolei, making him feel extremely comfortable. The expression he had while reading the cultivation technique also turned more focused. Only when the evening glow by the horizon was fully replaced by darkness did Wang Baolei look up. He had finished reading the ancient martial arts manual. He finally had a full understanding of the ancient martial realm. Those at the blood qi stage have immense strength. Those at the physical seal are extremely precise and accurate. Once pulse enrichment is attained, one would be pushed to the peak of human physical conditioning. Wang Baolei took a deep breath. He recalled the scene of the red-dressed youth, Chen Ziyang, striking the mountain. His eyes slowly began to burn with excitement. To become Federation President, ancient martial arts are necessary. Besides, I can lose weight while cultivating in it. It kills many birds with one stone. In his excitement, Wang Baolei began his attempt at cultivation. However, he suddenly had a change in expression. He raised his right hand and pulled out the black half mask. Wang Baolei looked at the mask ruminatively. He could not forget how the mask had turned incorporeal during the test. There was also the blurry text that had appeared. This must be a treasure. Wang Baolei's heart raced. His parents were involved in archaeology, and it was for this reason that his house seemed to be filled with objects that appeared like junk. Wang Baolei had once fantasized that one of the antiques hid a treasure, but he had played with nearly every one of them from a young age. He had even secretly dripped some blood to see if anything spectacular would happen. With the mask in hand, he carefully studied it once more. Other than the somewhat ice-cold material, he still did not notice anything extraordinary about it. When he finally recalled that the mask produced changes only in a special environment like the test, his eyes lit up. It looks like there's a need for me to borrow a similar Dharmic artifact. Perhaps, I can unravel the secrets of this mask. With this thought in mind, he noticed that the sky had turned dark. The somewhat tired Wang Baolei returned to his cave abode and arranged his luggage happily. He had not packed a lot of clothes. Most of his items were strange. There was even a large megaphone. All of these are treasures gathered by me to aid me in becoming an official. If I hadn't been able to find my luggage in my dream, I would not have needed to go through so much hardship. Wang Baolei yawned as he looked at the treasures in his luggage, satisfied. Just as he was about to sleep, he suddenly jolted and sat up. I can't grow dizzy from success. The high officials' autobiographies illustrate many cases of people who lose themselves to their momentary success. They tend to end up in tragedy. Wang Baolei drew a gasp. After repressing the excitement in him, he began pondering over the reason for the way the teachers looked at him and the way Goti treated him. Matching it to his status as a specially recruited student, the answer was evident. They must have discovered that something was amiss. When Wang Baolei came to this conclusion from his analysis, his heart turned cold as a chill ran down his spine. I have to stay low during this period of time. It would be best if it appears as if I don't exist. If not, there will only be trouble. Wang Baolei turned vexed. He did not wish to lose everything he had at present. While suffering from his headache, he could not help but blame the lack of a backer for his predicament. I need to think of a way to quickly get a backer. 3 days passed by quickly. As the various faculties released their lists of admitted students, all the students moved into their various faculty peaks. College life was about to begin after the matriculated students fully grasped the college rules and regulations. Wang Baolei kept a low profile during the 3 days. He began his attempt at cultivating ancient martial arts. He virtually did not step out of his cave abode, afraid he would gain the notice of Goti. He believed that he might be a lot safer if he survived the sensitive period. Although he had a nice wish, news regarding the various districts' tests began to spread on the Dao College's Spirit Intranet as the students settled in. It quickly became a hot topic. After all, nearly 100 hot air balloon cruisers with nearly 100 venues had undergone their district tests simultaneously. Many excellent students caught the attention of people. If you want to read more chapters, please visit freewebnovel.com to experience faster update speed. Did you hear? Among one of the freshmen from Skycloud City is a person named Lu Jingnan. He actually set a trap to slay the barbed bone iguana. He was extremely impressive. That's nothing. I heard that an expert named Chen Ziyang appeared in Phoenix City's test. He is only just short of the physical seal stage of the ancient martial realm. He was offered invitations from 8 different faculties at the same time. He's famous. As the Lower Academy Island's various faculties began discussing the freshmen on the Spirit Intranet, more people were gradually mentioned. The one who steals the show must be Chen Yameng. Rumor has it that she was born with a spirit body. She can refine spirit stones that are 80% pure. She could have entered the best college in the Federation, White Deer Dao College, but our ethereal Dao College spared no expense and gave her an irresistible offer. Chen Yameng is truly extraordinary. There's another person who is her equal. He might even surpass her. He's Zhou Yifan. Rumor has it that he was born with Inkstar eyes. Every time he activates them, everything around him appears slow. Furthermore, he is already at the perfected physical seal stage. His identity is a greater mystery, and he is rumored to be a member of the 5th-generation Sky Clan. He has been specially recruited by the combat faculty. Amid the discussion, all the noteworthy freshmen were brought to the forefront. Even the senior students felt the heat when they heard the news. And for Wang Baolei, who was desperately trying to keep a low profile, he rose to prominence like a bright star. After all, he had been specially recruited, and his performance in the test had been spread by hundreds of students from Phoenix City. There are 2 specially recruited students this batch. One of them is Zhou Yifan, and the other is Wang Baolei. Speaking of Wang Baolei, he has extremely high morals. He is filled with righteousness and is willing to sacrifice himself for others. In order to save his schoolmates, he charged into a sea of snakes despite the appearance of a red bone-white neonate snake. In order to give his schoolmates a chance to survive, he fed himself to the wolves. He once said the heart-stirring statement that he would live and die as one of Ethereal Dao College. Also, even after seeing an ancient boar specter bear, Wang Baolei still struggled to crawl over, despite his grievous injuries. He attempted to use his body to lure the specter bear away so as to save his schoolmates. This matter spread rapidly, causing Wang Baolei to become famous. His name was soon known to all on the Lower Academy Island. Wang Baolei, through his voice transmission ring, could not help but turn cold from fright when he saw the talk on the Spirit Intranet after logging in. He felt that trouble was brewing, and he quickly posted a thread. Hello everyone, I'm Wang Baolei. All of you were mistaken. I was actually very afraid back then. The reason I charged into the snake swarm was not that I am selfless, but that I find my schoolmate, Zhou Xiaoya, very pretty. I wanted to court her. Really. Wang Baolei posted his message through clenched teeth. He hoped that he could lower the attention he received by sullying himself. He did not dare to keep a high profile. But he did not imagine that the moment he posted the message, it quickly gained the affirmation and replies of countless students. Most of them were female students. They replied, calling him a real man. Wang Baolei nearly fainted as he was close to tears. He lamented about how he had bolstered the impressions people had of him despite believing that it would do the opposite. Thus, he posted another message. Actually, I only blocked the pack of wolves because I was poisoned. I knew I was about to die, so I would rather enjoy a quick death. The person who saved everyone was not me. All the credit should be given to Chen Ziyang. Wang Baolei was just about to heave a sigh of relief after writing that. He felt that by giving Chen Ziyang all the credit, attention would be placed on Chen Ziyang and not him. However, Wang Baolei's relief only lasted a short while. Chen Ziyang suddenly posted a reply, claiming that Wang Baolei was inferior to him when it came to martial arts, but in terms of heroic spirit, tenacity, and selflessness, he was inferior to Wang Baolei. The moment the message was posted, it immediately caused the spirit internet to boil over. After all, Chen Ziyang was famous. What he said carried weight. Immediately, countless people began discussing the matter. It made Wang Baolei's plan of diverting away attention fail once again. More attention was placed on him, even more than Chen Yameng. All of this made Wang Baolei feel like slamming his head against the wall. He reeled in despair as tears rolled down his cheeks. Even his organs were trembling. Heavens, are you guys trying to get me killed? Spare me. I admit my mistake, all right. With tears streaming down his cheeks, he gritted his teeth and posted once again. Everyone, please don't mind me anymore. I'm just an ordinary fatty. There is nothing good about me. I'm gluttonous, lustful, and avaricious. I only barely passed the placement exams, and the spirit stones I can refine are only a little better than 50%. I'm really just an ordinary person. Wang Baolei felt that this act of sullying of himself was complete. Any bad thing he could think of had been added. However, the development of the situation nearly shocked his jaw off. This time, it was Lu Daoban who stepped forward. He left a message that resonated in an unprecedented manner with countless students. Chen Yameng is impressive. Zhou Yifan is even more remarkable. However, they were already the best of us freshmen. They have more than what it takes to rescue people or complete tests, but Wang Baolei is different. He was saving people with his life. It's just like how a wealthy person can give you 100 spirit stones, but when compared to a poor person who gives you all his savings of 100 spirit stones, how can that act have the same meaning? Wang Baolei is just like us. He is only an ordinary student, so how can he be without flaws? But it is such a person, with him sacrificing himself to save others, that makes it even more shocking. That bloody scene is something I will never forget my entire life. His words immediately stirred a fervor. It caused the comments on the Lower Academy Island's spirit internet to increase exponentially. Topics on Wang Baolei exceeded Zhou Yifan's, making him stand out amid the batch of freshmen. Wang Baolei was completely dumbfounded as he looked at the spirit internet in a daze. He did not think he was that great. It took him a while to recover as his eyes were filled with despair. He took out a bag of snacks while looking as though life held nothing for him. He began munching on the snacks. I'm finished. I'm finished. I'm in big trouble. Indeed, it did not take long before the teachers on the Phoenix City cruiser took notice. They could not maintain their silence and publicly announced the news that Wang Baolei had cheated on the test. Like massive ripples formed from a stone drop, the announcement immediately caused a huge upheaval all across the Lower Academy Island. A World Worth Protecting Chapter 7 An entire population of miners saw. Chapter 7. An entire population of miners translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios as the news of Wang Baolei's cheating broke. The shock that everyone felt was as elevated as the pedestal he had been previously placed on. Topics on Wang Baolei cropped up again, becoming the hottest topic among the freshmen. Even topics of the older students paled in comparison. There were even many who directly posted threads on the spirit internet, angrily demanding that punitive action be taken against Wang Baolei. Wang Baolei sighed when he saw his worst fears happen as he expected. He sat gloomily in his cave abode and looked around, his heart filled with sorrow. Wang Baolei attempted to console himself. It's said that when heaven is about to confer a great office on any man, it first exercises his mind with suffering, and his sinews and bones with toil. Is heaven testing me? He felt that he was facing extremely great trouble. Just a little misstep could doom him. After being gripped by momentary nervousness, his brain began whirling for a solution. Days later, the various faculties in Ethereal Tao College's Lower Academy Island began the first lectures for freshmen. That day, Wang Baolei carried his tiny bag early in the morning as he walked out his cave abode with an austere expression. What's the big deal? It's nothing. What's there to be afraid of? Wang Baolei looked up at the sword sun and took a deep breath. His eyes revealed a look of determination. Dressed in his specially recruited student robes, he headed for the Spirit Stones Hall, one of the 3 main halls of the Dharmic Armament faculty. Many students were headed for the hall in groups. All of them were looking forward to classes. They walked briskly while chatting, but when they saw Wang Baolei in his red Taoist robes, they were taken aback. They instantly recognized him, and their expressions changed. The topics they were talking in whispers quickly changed to that of Wang Baolei. It's Wang Baolei. He actually appeared. Say, how long do you think he can stay in the Tao College? I heard that a teacher has proposed to expel him to serve as a warning to others. Although everyone spoke softly, Wang Baolei met too many students along the way. Some of the chatter reached his ears. If it were anyone else, they would definitely not have been able to hide their fluster and anxiety. However, as an oddity who had studied high officials' autobiographies from a young age, Wang Baolei made having a thick skin a basic skill. He remained composed as he strode straight toward the hall. The stone platform that the hall was on spanned a huge area. It was sufficient to hold 10,000 people. Although the construction was simple, it was filled with an ancient air. 8 gigantic stone columns supported the massive Flying Phoenix Pavilion. The pavilion's entrance was noisy. Apart from the empty lecture stage, there were countless tables and chairs in a stepped fashion. They were occupied by people, and the most eye-catching thing in the hall was a gigantic stone wall to the right of the lecture stage. The wall was blue in color, and on it were 100 names. Every name had a number labeled beside it. Beside first place was the number 90, and for the 100th place, it was 82. There was a string of smaller numbers behind those numbers. A huge rock stood upright outside the hall's entrance. On it was the motto of the Dharmic Armament faculty. Divine armaments shall destroy the myriad Tao if restrainment by Dharmic artifacts and numinous treasures proves fruitless. When Wang Baolei approached, he remained composed despite there being bold freshmen and senior students present as he looked at the motto on the rock. The sentence was domineering. It was a strong, impactful principle that a single Dharma could suppress the myriad Tao. Even though Wang Baolei was caught up in his thoughts, he could not help but halt when he saw the words. He was stunned by them. Wang Baolei might have only been interested in the Dharmic Armament faculty in the past, but at that moment, he turned even more inclined toward the Dharmic Armament faculty after reading the sentence. Trying to expel me. What a joke. I, Wang Baolei, have been studying high officials' autobiographies for 10 years. What sort of storms have I not weathered? Wang Baolei focused his mind and stepped into the hall, striding straight in. With his eye-catching red Taoist robes appearing in the hall, he immediately attracted the attention of the students around him. It was unknown whose sharp voice it was that first shouted Wang Baolei's name. After the shout, innumerable pairs of eyes landed their gazes on Wang Baolei instantly. There were more than 10,000 people, and their gazes were all focused on one person. The pressure was enough to turn one limp, especially since there were jeers coming from the crowd. Wang Baolei, to think you have the shame to attend classes. What specially recruited student? It's something obtained purely from cheating. How unjust it is if such a person is not punished. Wang Baolei, you are not welcomed here. If this were anywhere else, perhaps no one would have said such words so directly. After all, there was no deep vendetta between them. But in the massive hall, with so many people present, the atmosphere easily stirred up emotions. Instantly, there was a buzz that demanded punitive measures against him. Liu Daoben was also among the group. He felt conflicted, and he sighed inwardly when he looked at Wang Baolei. He also felt odd. Despite knowing that Wang Baolei had cheated, he still could not wipe the bloody scene from his mind. If it were me, I'll probably turn and leave. Liu Daoben shook his head as he reflected on the situation. Wang Baolei was still standing at the entrance. Suddenly, His eyes widened as he saw Wang Baolei very naturally pull out a megaphone from his bag. He placed it by his mouth and widened his eyes before suddenly shouting loudly, "All of you shut up." He had shouted to begin with, and through the special amplification of the megaphone, it sounded like thunder. It resounded throughout the hall, drowning out the voices of 10,000 people. Those who were closer to Wang Baolei, who had jeered the loudest, nearly stumbled due to the roar. Instantly, everyone felt their ears buzz as there was complete silence. Some were in a daze. Even in their wildest dreams, they had never expected a student to have a clearly modified megaphone in his bag. People were there to study. They found it puzzling that anyone would bring a megaphone to school. It was truly too incredulous. The dramatic turn of events, especially the deafening megaphone's sound, left everyone dumbstruck. Even Liu Daoben was dumbfounded. He could not help but take a few looks at the ridiculous megaphone in Wang Baolei's hand. Wang Baolei looked in satisfaction at the scene before him as he stuffed the megaphone into his bag in a composed manner. This was one of the treasures he carried with him all the time. From his reading of the high officials' autobiographies, he knew very clearly that having a powerful megaphone in a speaking contest was extremely useful. Wang Baolei raised his head and puffed out his chest, walking forward when he saw everyone stunned. He noticed Liu Daoben, who seemed hesitant. After looking at Wang Baolei's tiny bag, Liu Daoben waved at him. "This Liu Daoben is quite an interesting fellow." Wang Baolei's eyes lit up as he rushed over to take a seat. Only then did the crowd in the hall recover. Many were infuriated, and just as they wanted to retaliate, a bell rang. A thin, white-haired elder dressed in black Taoist robes slowly walked in. He had a cold expression, looking like someone that one should stay away from. He naturally suffused a repressive aura, causing the heart of every student in the hall to palpitate. They shut their mouths and quietly looked at the black-robed elder, who had walked onto the lecture stage. Wang Baolei also quickly looked over. The black-robed elder swept his gaze over the crowd before saying, "The Dharmic Armament faculty has 3 main halls. They are the Spirit Stones Hall, the Inscriptions Hall, and the Spirit Kernel Hall. I am one of the 5 lecturers in the Spirit Stones Hall, Zhou Yunhai. The stone wall beside me is the Dharmic Armament roll of the School of Spirit Stones. I wish for all of you to have your names on it one day. Class shall begin now. But before we study the refinement of spirit stones, I want all of you to understand one principle. Why do we get the entire population to cultivate a qi nurturing technique when we want to refine spirit stones?" As the elder spoke, he nonchalantly clenched his fist. A milky white stone the size of a fist appeared out of thin air. This scene left the hearts of many students palpitating once again. Liu Daoben was well read as he drew a gasp beside Wang Baolei. He uttered, "Teacher Zhou has a storage dharmic artifact." Wang Baolei similarly widened his eyes. Although he had heard of storage dharmic artifacts, he had never seen one before. No one sold them in the world. Occasionally, he would hear on the news that one had been sold at a major auction. Furthermore, the final price was far beyond his imagination. None of the students were strangers to the milky white rock. It was the necessary empty stone needed to refine spirit stones. 37 years ago, with the sword of the cosmos flying over, a new energy source suddenly appeared in this world, and it's none other than spirit qi. The concentration of spirit qi is extremely rich, but it appeared too suddenly. It did not exist in the past, and according to the Federation's research, if the spirit qi continues nourishing the land, it will affect jade in a few centuries, which will result in spirit stone mines. The black-robed elder spoke calmly. The white rock he held was constantly emitting an increasingly intense halo. One could faintly notice that the elder's surroundings were silently warping. It seemed like invisible spirit qi was being controlled by him and guided into the rock. However, we are presently in the 37th year of the spirit inception era. We are far from having spirit stone mines. To gain spirit stones, we need humans to create them. Therefore, various factions have promoted the qi nurturing technique, making it open to the population. The goal is to make everyone a miner to create spirit stones so that it can be used as a currency. It will result in a massive number of spirit stones that can supply the whole world with cultivation resources. Also, Due to how different people have different affinities with spirit chi and other various reasons, the spirit stone purity each person refines is different. This gives rise to what we call natural endowments. For example, to qualify for the White Deer Dao College, one needs to refine spirit stones with a purity of more than 70%. As for our Ethereal Dao College, it's lower, but it still needs at least 50% purity. His words and the changes to the empty stone left the students in the hall speechless. Such an opinion was completely different from what they knew. And the way the elder refined the spirit stone in such a composed manner was equally stunning. The entire population takes on the role of miners. He can refine a spirit stone while speaking. Wang Baolei's heart was racing as well. He could refine spirit stones, too, but he needed to fully focus every time. Just a tiny distraction would result in failure. The black-robed elder was unconcerned with the student's shock. He calmly refined the spirit stone as he continued speaking once again. Then here comes a new question. Is there really only one chi fostering art? I can tell you with full certainty that what the population studies is the first volume. Its main use is to strengthen one's physique, allowing spirit chi to enter the body. Although it's not possible for them to store it in their bodies, it will quickly dissipate out of their bodies like a draft. But if they hold an empty stone, they can use their bodies as a conduit with their minds, allowing them to refine spirit stones. Spirit stones also have grades. Inferior grade, medial grade, superior grade, as well as the rainbow spirit stones that approach perfection. As for the second volume, only Dharmic armament refiners can gain access to it. This is because the sword hilt fragment that contained the chi fostering art was a description of Dharmic armament refinement. It's only because the first volume had the additional information pertaining to the refinement of spirit stones that it was spread among the population, allowing everyone to cultivate in it. The black-robed elder spoke at an appropriate speed. Having said that, the empty stone in his hand had already turned resplendent. Waving his right hand, the luster dissipated. Ash scattered from the empty stone's surface and exposed a much smaller, chestnut-shaped spirit stone. Mist seemed to swirl in it as it shimmered. Although the second volume is good, those who cannot refine spirit stones with a purity higher than 80% are not qualified to study from it. As such, in my class, I will not talk about the second volume. I'll only be talking about the refinement tricks as recorded in the first volume. The hall was silent. Everyone was looking at the spirit stone in the elder's hand. Everything seemed to pale in front of it. With this spirit stone as a comparison, they felt as though the spirit stones they refined were mere fakes. He refined a spirit stone of at least 90% purity while speaking. Other than being a teacher, Teacher Zhou must definitely be someone remarkable outside. Wang Baolei drew a gasp. The lesson that day seemed to have opened up a brand new world for him. A world worth protecting. Chapter 8 Wit and Counterattack. Double A Chapter 8 Wit and Counterattack. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Inside the Spirit Stones Hall, Zhou Yunhai's voice remained as calm as ever. It was as if he was not delivering a lecture to students but simply expressing his understanding of Dharmic armaments. A casual comment of his would leave the students enlightened, making them see the light. However, the need to pay close attention was extremely demanding on these newly matriculated students. They could only first write down whatever was said. It developed to the point of them not being able to keep up with their note writing. Many students began to murmur quietly as a way to relax. Wang Baolei finally understood why the Dharmic armament faculty only had 3 main halls. Just this hall that taught spirit stone refinement techniques had enough content to make it impossible to fully understand everything simply from attending a few classes. He was somewhat exhausted, and Liu Daoben had finally snapped back to attention. He looked at Wang Baolei and could not help but whisper, "Wang Baolei, you are in trouble. I heard that several teachers have proposed to have you expelled." His eyes were filled with pity, but when he saw Wang Baolei's tiny bag, his face could not help but twitch. Which teacher said that? Wang Baolei was somewhat peeved. Although he had made up his mind and was prepared, he still felt annoyed. Liu Daoben patted Wang Baolei's shoulder and sighed inwardly. He reminded himself to use Wang Baolei as a warning for himself. Just as he was about to console him, 2 people suddenly walked in from the hall's main entrance. The two were obviously senior students. They wore black Taoist robes, unlike the other students. They had stern expressions, and the moment they appeared, all the senior students in the hall turned alert and attentive. What happened? Even people from the college discipline department have come. It's actually them. There is always bloodshed wherever they appear. Even though the freshmen did not know the duo's identity, they came to a certain level of realization from hearing the discussions of the senior students and noticing the duo's austerity. Wang Baolei's heart skipped a beat. Zhou Yunhai knitted his brows together as he looked at the two black-robed students. The duo politely greeted him by cupping their fists before handing him a jade slip. After Zhou Yunhai finished reading with knitted brows, he looked up and scanned the students. Finally, his eyes landed on Wang Baolei. Immediately, all the students in the hall traced his gaze with different looks on their faces. They received their answer. They knew about Wang Baolei's situation. It seemed that the lower academy had taken notice and was here to punish him. Even though Wang Baolei already had a countermeasure to deal with the situation, he still felt somewhat nervous due to the environment he was in. Especially with the two black-robed students looking at him keenly. They were clearly not there for a friendly chat. Wang Baolei, come with us, one of the two members of the college discipline department said coldly. But before Wang Baolei stood up, Zhou Yunhai grunted coldly. Enough, that can wait until class is over. Leave for now. The two college discipline department students paused when they heard that. They did not dare offend the teacher and could only tersely assent with their heads bowed. They retreated to the hall's entrance to wait. The lesson continued as Zhou Yunhai ignored them. Wang Baolei felt relieved and looked at Zhou Yunhai with gratitude. Although he already had a countermeasure, having more time was always better. It gave him time to perfect and clarify his thought processes. He closed his eyes and calmed himself. Many of the students gloated for the remainder of the lesson, but that was still not everyone. Most students felt that the matter did not involve themselves and continued jotting down notes. Liu Daoban sighed inwardly. He was unsure how to comfort Wang Baolei. He knew that once Wang Baolei was expelled, they would be people from two completely different worlds. Even if they bumped into each other in the future, it would still be an extremely regretful situation. Time passed, and 4 hours later, Zhou Yunhai finished his lesson and left. All the students instantly looked at Wang Baolei. The cold gazes of the two black-robed students from the college discipline department also landed on Wang Baolei. Do you want us to invite you? Wang Baolei opened his eyes. He had a calm look on his face. The feeling he exuded felt different from the usual one. He walked down without a word, followed the two senior students, and left the hall. With his departure, the hall immediately broke out into a cacophonous discussion. Is this Wang Baolei really getting expelled? Could it be anything else? Didn't you see the college discipline department? I've never seen anyone taken away by them who's ended up fine. Amid the discussions, many people ran out and followed. They wanted to watch the entire process. After all, this matter would cause great repercussions considering Wang Baolei's specially recruited status. It even went beyond the confines of the Dharmic Armament faculty. Students from other faculties also paid attention to the matter after learning that Wang Baolei had been taken away. Wang Baolei ignored the crowd following behind. He had an unprecedented calm about him along the way as he followed the two senior students from the college discipline department. They went straight to the Dharmic Armament faculty's mountaintop. The two senior students walking ahead were sneering inwardly. They had taken away quite a sizable number of people over the years. There was no lack of people, like Wang Baolei, who acted strong-willed. They would be impressed if Wang Baolei could maintain his composure when he left the college discipline department. The entire journey happened silently. The number of people that followed behind increased. Only when they arrived at a building on the mountaintop did the two senior students halt. They made way and gestured for Wang Baolei to enter alone. Wang Baolei took a deep breath as he looked at the closed doors of the building. It was impossible not to be nervous, but he knew that he had to survive this ordeal. He gritted his teeth, and pushing open the door, he strode straight in. The moment he entered the building, Wang Baolei immediately felt dozens of pairs of eyes bearing down on him. In front of him sat dozens of teachers. Some were middle-aged, and others were elderly. All of them had stern expressions, but there were a few looking disappointed. The old physician and Goatee were also among the teachers. In contrast to the old physician's calmness, Goatee appeared conflicted and did not seem to have the heart to continue. Among them there was one who was clearly chairing the investigation. It was a thin middle-aged man. He wore a black Taoist robe, and his eyes shimmered. He had thin lips, and his body emanated an obvious frosty air. It made the building's temperature a lot colder than the outside. Not all the people were teachers of the Dharmic Armament faculty. However, as Wang Baolei was the Dharmic Armament faculty's specially recruited student, the hearing regarding Wang Baolei's cheating was held on Dharmic Armament Peak. Noticing that Wang Baolei had entered, the black-robed chairman spoke slowly with a cold tone. Wang Baolei. Wang Baolei took a deep breath and went forward to cup his fist while speaking in a deep voice. Yes, sir. According to our investigations, you engaged in the consequential and vile act of cheating during the district test. According to the college's rules, the punishment should be in the form of immediate expulsion. As you are a specially recruited student, we have summoned you here for a hearing. After the black-robed middle-aged man finished his piece, he turned to look at his colleagues, not giving Wang Baolei so much as a chance to explain himself. My fellow colleagues, we can begin. I personally suggest that the punishment meted out to Wang Baolei should be to revoke his privileges as a special recruit and have him expelled. The 4 Dao colleges will be informed to never admit him again. His words seemed categorical and extremely cold as they resounded through the room. Wang Baolei's expression changed. He wondered why a person he was meeting for the first time would be filled with such malice despite not having a grudge with him. His suggestion was practically ending any future that awaited him. There was a brief silence before another teacher spoke coldly. He should be expelled. Such a despicable and shameless person has no right to be admitted into a Dao college. That's right. I suggest that he be expelled, too. Although the punishment is somewhat harsh, we are being irresponsible toward the Federation if we leave such acts unchecked. Teachers offered their views one after another. Wang Baolei was a person of no importance to them. Since the black-robed man had set the tone of the hearing, there was no reason for them to refute him. Wang Baolei breathed slowly as he listened to the teachers. He did not move as though he had fallen into a daze. However, his hands were clenched. As for Goatee, he shook his head and sighed. The revoking of his status as a special recruit would be sufficient. Nobody is perfect. There's no need for such a harsh punishment. However, he did not receive the support of the crowd. Soon, other teachers spoke, and expulsion became the main agenda that was discussed in the room. Only the old physician remained silent. The black-robed man did not seem interested in asking for the old physician's opinion. He stood up and was about to announce the outcome when Wang Baolei raised his head suddenly, his eyes filled with anger and sadness. Teachers, please give me a chance to speak. The black-robed man frowned. The reason he had been so harsh was that he had planned on recommending someone else as the Dharmic Armament faculty's specially recruited student. Yet, before he could make his recommendation, the title had been snatched by Wang Baolei. He grunted coldly and was about to ignore him, but it was at that moment when the old physician spoke. Go ahead. With him saying so, the black-robed man could only acquiesce as he looked at Wang Baolei. Wang Baolei took a deep breath, his body nearly trembling. Teachers, I did know that everything in the test was fake, but what did you expect me to do? Could I have told all the students that the so-called test was, in fact, fake? Could I have? His final sentence was nearly delivered with a roar. Without waiting for the teacher's response, Wang Baolei appeared like he was in a fervent state as he continued in his elevated emotions. Once I reveal the truth to them, I would have wasted all the efforts already made by the school to administer the test. When that happened, I would have crossed the school. Tell me, what should I have done? In moments of danger, I saw my fellow schoolmates injured, some bleeding. And yet, I couldn't tell them everything was fake. All I could do was save them. Was I wrong in saving them? Tell me, what should I have done? The veins in Wang Baolei's forehead protruded. His entire body was quivering like he was in a fit. He appeared to be venting all the anger in his eyes. Is saving people wrong? Should I not have saved them? Despite me knowing that everything was fake, I had to consider if I was cheating, thinking about the pros and cons of my actions. Do I have to act indifferent as I watch my fellow schoolmates cry, be injured, or even be killed? Could I even be considered human if that's what I did? Wang Baolei was nearly shouting at the top of his lungs. All his emotions were fully expressed, his voice echoing through the room. All the teachers were stunned. All you saw was me acting. But I wish to ask each and every one of you, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have turned a blind eye to the deaths, or would you have rescued the people like I did? I'm a student of Ethereal Dao College. I don't claim to be capable of changing the world and bringing world peace, but I, Wang Baolei, am an upright man. Wang Baolei's eyes were welling in tears. He raised his right hand and pounded his chest, producing loud thuds. Every word he said sounded extremely earnest. Many teachers were visibly moved. The finale was most impactful, with Wang Baolei laughing out tragically. If sacrificing myself to protect others is considered a crime, I admit to it. If being intelligent and sharp is considered a crime, I admit to it. If that is the case, I, your humble student, Wang Baolei, am willing to receive any punishment meted out to me. Wang Baolei's voice boomed loud and clear as he suddenly bowed toward all the teachers. The entire room fell silent. All the teachers drew a gasp as the looks on their faces changed constantly. They looked at Wang Baolei in a daze. Every sentence he said contained righteousness and logic, shaking them to their very core. The teachers like Go Ti, who had seen Wang Baolei's acting, felt moved, but they had a nagging feeling that something was amiss. As for the black-robed man, he squinted and glared at Wang Baolei. He wanted to say something but found no words. Although he felt that Wang Baolei's statements were flawed, they were tightly bound with righteousness. He was very familiar with such techniques, one commonly espoused by high officials. However, it was rarely seen among students. The feeling that denying Wang Baolei's words meant that he was denying righteousness left him at a loss for words. When he looked at his colleagues, he knew that Wang Baolei had survived. He sighed. The puny figure that he believed he could easily squash had suddenly transformed into a prickly porcupine. The old physician gave a deep, meaningful smile as he closed his eyes. Soon, Wang Baolei walked out of the building. There were thousands of people surrounding it. Many of them were envious of his status as a specially recruited student, others were gloating at his misfortune. They were planning to see Wang Baolei make a fool of himself when a mighty voice boomed from inside the building, resounding throughout the Dharmic Armament faculty. According to the college's investigations, the student, Wang Baolei, did not violate any rules in the freshman test. He will retain his status as a specially recruited student. A world worth protecting. Chapter 9 Great Void Chi Devouring Art. AA Chapter 9. Great Void Chi Devouring Art. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. The weathered voice resounded throughout the Dharmic Armament faculty, filled with stateliness. All the students outside the building could not help but jolt when they heard it, especially those who had been gloating prior to the announcement. They widened their eyes and struggled to close their jaws. It was unbelievable. Instantly, there was silence outside the building. All eyes landed on Wang Baolei as they watched him walk out in triumph. His red specially recruited student robes stood out even more. Everyone subconsciously took a step back and made way for him. They watched Wang Baolei depart, and after a long while, there were audible gasps heard, which developed into an uproar. He actually walked out fine. How is that possible? Didn't he cheat? Why did the announcement say that he did not violate the rules? Amid the uproar, Liu Daoban stood among the crowd. He was stunned as well. Heroic scenes of Wang Baolei's performance in the test and the surprising scene of him pulling out a megaphone in the lecture hall surfaced in his mind. Truly unfathomable. A moment later, Liu Daoban took a deep breath. He immediately realized that the reason Wang Baolei had become a specially recruited student was definitely not a result of plain luck. He could sense an extraordinary quality from Wang Baolei. Liu Daoban was not the only one stunned. Not far from him, the college discipline department seniors that had escorted Wang Baolei to the building exchanged looks and saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. While others were in an uproar, Wang Baolei returned to his cave abode. News of the Dao College clarification that he had not violated any rules had been spread throughout the Lower Academy Island over the Spirit intranet. Everyone that had paid attention to the matter was left shocked and baffled. Instantly, Wang Baolei's name filled the spirit intranet. And at that moment, Wang Baolei was sitting on his cave abod's veranda, watching the spirit intranet with glee. Unlike how he had sullied his own reputation previously, he was feeling very pleased that he was becoming famous. To become a Federation high official, the people's impression is extremely important. It looks like I have the necessary foundation. Wang Baolei beamed with joy, feeling like he was one step closer to his dreams. However, I must not let my guard down. Wang Baolei recalled the black-robed man in the building. His vicious words and actions that were bent on dooming him left Wang Baolei's heart palpitating. This person is a high official of the Lower Academy Island, and I do not know his exact identity. I am in a very passive state. With this thought in mind, Wang Baolei rushed to search on the spirit intranet. Only when dusk fell did he finally identify the person. His breathing turned rapid. He's the Vice-Chancellor. Heavens! Wang Baolei's heart began thumping in his chest as he rubbed his eyes. After confirming that he had not seen wrong, he immediately turned nervous. The man's position was too high. From Wang Baolei's point of view, the Vice-Chancellor of the Lower Academy Island was a relatively high post. I did not offend him. Does my family have some secret I'm unaware of? Did we once offend him? Wang Baolei's thoughts ran wild. It was quite a headache. After a while, he recalled the high official's autobiographies he had researched. His eyes revealed a look of determination. Nearly all high officials will encounter political enemies successively in their lives. It can be said that as they rise up the ranks, they will battle their political enemies again and again. This Vice-Chancellor is probably my first political enemy. Having designated the man as his political enemy, Wang Baolei immediately stopped panicking. Instead, his fighting spirit rose. He began considering the advantages he had as a specially recruited student. Although he had not left his residence during the past few days, he had learned about the privileges a specially recruited student had on the spirit intranet. One of the privileges allowed him to go to the treasure repository of any faculty and borrow a dharmic artifact for free. The lease lasted 5 years. With this thought in mind, Wang Baolei quickly got up, left his cave abode, and found the treasure repository. With his identity as a specially recruited student, he walked into the treasure repository after a series of identity verifications. There were students present, and they immediately recognized him on sight. Although some ignored him and continued their selection processes, most whispered excitedly. The treasure repository appeared ancient. It looked like a 5-floor pagoda from the outside, but inside, there were rows of shelves. Placed on them were dharmic artifacts filed by the dharmic armament faculty. Some looked inconspicuous, others resplendent. One could see thousands of dharmic artifacts at a glance. It also showcased the deep heritage of the dharmic armament faculty. After all, every single item was top quality, meant to be rented or borrowed by students. The rental prices depended on the dharmic artifact, but that was something Wang Baolei did not need to consider. Since it's free, I obviously have to borrow an expensive one. After scanning the first floor, he headed straight for the 5th floor under the envious gazes of the students on the 1st floor. Standing in the empty 5th floor, Wang Baolei became increasingly aware of the perks of being a specially recruited student. He began his selection. This sword is not bad. This bell looks beautiful, too. This glove is good. It's completely silver in color, and it's obvious it's something impressive. After looking around, Wang Baolei fell into a dilemma. He liked all the dharmic artifacts that were on display. He was momentarily unable to decide. This went on until his eyes landed on a white pillow made of jade. He was instantly attracted to it. The pillow's name was Hallucination Dharma Pillow. It shared similar effects to the Hallucination Nexus, which was used during the test. It could create illusionary scenes, but due to its low grade, it was difficult to do overly complex things inside. Thus, few people borrowed or rented it. Besides, it was expensive. If not for his experience with the Black Mask, Wang Baolei would not have taken notice of the Dharma Pillow. After some thought, he decided to borrow the dharmic artifact. After registering the rental, Wang Baolei left with the Dharma Pillow. He was filled with anticipation along the way. He moved increasingly quickly before he began dashing back to his cave abode. He planned on unraveling the Black Mosque's secrets. If you want to read more chapters, please visit freewebnovel.com to experience faster update speed. In the dusking sky, there was still an evening glow, which spread across Dharmic Armament Peak, seemingly dyeing it with a thin, red veil. The warm colors exuded an indescribable beauty. It was made even better as the night breeze brought away the heat, replacing the area with a coolness. It made many students leave their dormitories and chat happily on the peak. It was unknown if it was due to the redness of the evening glow that masked Wang Baolei's specially recruited student robes, but as he traversed the mountain trails, not many people noticed him. Instead, there were exclamations as people looked into the distance. When he looked over, he saw a youth dressed in robes different from a specially recruited student's. He wore pure white Taoist robes, which seemed to exude an elegant grace. However, he had average looks and was plagued by freckles. Even so, there were a few female students beside him, their eyes filled with an intense glint. Other than the girls, there were more than 10 other students behind him. They surrounded him, some helping to carry his bag, others carrying ice spirit water for him. The entourage was walking over from afar. It's the head prefect. The head prefect of Spirit Stone Hall, Zhang Lin. Unlike the way they treated a specially recruited student, all the surrounding students, regardless of gender, immediately went forward to greet the white-robed youth the moment they saw him. They were respectful and polite, as though they had met a teacher. It made the white-robed youth appear to have a noble air about him. He nodded in acknowledgement before departing with his entourage. He had seen Wang Baolei, but it appeared that to him, there was no difference between ordinary and specially recruited students. One that was not a head prefect was simply a younger pupil and not his equal. Wang Baolei widened his eyes as he watched the departing white-robed Freckles. He felt a little green with envy, believing that Freckles had stolen his limelight. What's a head prefect? Wang Baolei snorted and lowered his head to open up the spirit intranet. He searched for the information while walking back to his cave abode. But as he did so, his breathing slowly turned abnormal. By the time he returned to his cave abode, he was completely shaken. This is a head prefect. Head prefects were those who were ranked first on the hall roll of each faculty. The number of halls determined the number of head prefects. For example, the Dharmic Armament faculty had 3 main halls, so there were 3 head prefects. Apart from proving their excellence in their respective halls, head prefects had another title, Chancellor Disciples. The head prefects of every faculty were considered disciples of the Chancellor. They addressed each other as senior and junior brothers. They were different from their fellow students. Aside from that, a head prefect had an authority that even specially recruited students lacked. Specially recruited students only enjoyed a few more advantages compared to ordinary students, whereas a head prefect held power in the Dao College. They were in charge of enforcing the college rules and regulations on the students of their respective faculties. Just this power alone left countless students nervous and awed. This authority was considered extremely powerful in the Dao College. And most important of all, the faculty dean had no right to dismiss the head prefect. The reason was that head prefects were not appointed, but instead, promoted according to their results. This was the rule of ethereal Dao College. Only the Chancellor had the authority to dismiss a head prefect, but the altering of the rules was something even the Chancellor would not wish to employ unless it was something extremely vile. Similarly, with such status and authority, a head prefect would not dare turn lazy and complacent. Once they were surpassed by others, they would no longer be first. They would instantly lose their title of head prefect and everything that came with it. Wang Baolei's eyes were burning when he read the information detailed on the spirit intranet. However, it was extremely difficult to become a head prefect. He recalled that the number beside the head prefect on the Spirit Stone Hall's roll was 90. This represented that the spirit stones refined had a purity level of 90%. Unless I can refine a higher purity spirit stone than him, it's completely impossible, Wang Baolei sighed. He stopped his pangs of envy. He was not a person willing to be envious of others. To him, the reason a head prefect could be so impressive was that he had something that was far beyond one's reach. Wang Baolei stopped thinking about it amid regret and his aspirations. He took out the hallucination Dharma pillow and the black mask. After some thought, he activated the Dharma pillow as the scene before his eyes turned hazy. His surroundings changed, and he found himself by an icy river. A biting cold wind blew at him, jolting Wang Baolei. It's truly realistic. Wang Baolei gave his surroundings a quick look. The sky was filled with snowflakes and the ground was covered in ice. He could even see some Arctic critters in the distance. Everything looked extremely realistic. Wang Baolei quickly turned his attention back to his right hand. He drew on the experience from before. He had held the black mask in his hand before entering the hallucination realm, so when he lowered his head, he immediately saw the black mask in his hand. It was a blur. Its surface was clear in certain parts and blurry elsewhere. They were intercrossed as though the hallucination realm could not fully decompose its features. It worked. Wang Baolei became excited as he carefully observed. The mask turned stable after some time, but it remained incomplete. However, text that had previously appeared surfaced once again. Perhaps because he could raise the mask up in front of him or some other unknown reason, the text appeared clearer. After Wang Baolei carefully studied the text, he gradually discerned it. Great Void Qi Devouring Art. Wang Baolei blinked and continued reading until he finished reading all the text. His body turned stiff before it began trembling. His eyes revealed an intense excitement. Great Void meant the production of something out of nothing. Qi devouring was something much more potent than qi nurturing. To be precise, the Great Void Qi devouring art was similarly a method used to refine spirit stones, but it did not need empty stones to be used as vessels. Instead, it could produce spirit stones out of nothing by using one's body to devour spirit qi. Due to not having any need for empty stones and the different method employed, the art produced spirit stones with purities that far exceeded those produced by the qi fostering art. It could even produce the legendary perfect spirit stones that only Dharmic armament grandmasters could refine, not to mention purities at the 90% level. It was no longer an unreachable dream. At that instant, Wang Baolei immediately dismissed Ethereal Dao College's cultivation technique. The position of head prefect filled his excited thoughts while his yearning to be head prefect became his motivation. He became fanatical that very instant.